project, given the scale of the development and the quite wide variety of stakeholders involved, that it was relevant for a number of different local councillors to speak, who had asked to. So I've agreed to that, and I've agreed there are sufficient special circumstances for that to be the case. So I hope that's okay with everybody. So the first speaker statement is a statement of objection provided by Ward Councillor Neil Spate, which can be found on pages 2 to 3 of your speaker statement booklet. Neil, would you like to come through and park yourself? Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. That would have been, there's not much point in my saying it's going to be broadcast when it's not. Are we okay now? Great. So, Neil, you know the score, so you have 3 minutes and in your own time.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your understanding to allowing people to speak on the severity of this matter and allowing a number of ward councillors to speak. One of the benefits is probably that we bring a little bit of local knowledge, and I just, sort of just deviating slightly from my script, I was quite astonished just then when the officer said that there are no residential properties between the quarry entrance and Buckingham Mill Road. Well, I suggest he either logs on the Google Maps or goes and looks at the houses that are there, because there are several. It's quite frightening when you get information like that that's completely wrong. Anyway, I'm here not just as a ward councillor, but a local custodian of adult and children's health and care and safeguarding, and I'm frightened by the negative health aspects that this will bring. And these are not allowed by the audience, but there you go. People are really worried about health that this is going to cause problems with. I sit as a member of the steering group of the local plan. This has never been discussed. I'm a neighbour of this development, and on a daily basis I see the huge impact of increased HGV traffic across East Thurrock. To put it simply, the roads from the Orsett Cock and the A128 Brentwood Road, Fobbing High Road to the east, and everything south of the A13 are crumbling under the strain. I applaud the huge commercial development at DP World London Gateway and its logistics park, but that has tripled the traffic in the area since this application was first put to council in 2019. And look at what has happened to East Thurrock in other ways, with thousands of new homes already being built, and the expansion of DP World, the potential expansion of Tilbury, and a huge swathe of pylons to be coming cut through. I've got reservations for this, the newly introduced and very unwelcome grey belt, green belt definition on arable pastoral green belt land, and I see that this has been used to justify this. Well, I can see why it might happen regarding houses, but I don't think it should be applied to turning green belt where crops are grown into a quarry. I really don't think that's, I think it's something that's entirely different. It just should not really happen. And again, the officer tonight mentioned the fact that they would now had a concession that there would be a meeting about restoration on the site. Well, we're 7 years into this project and we still haven't sat down and talked about it. I find that quite scary. I really do. And I just tell people here, you know, unless you're blessed with remarkable good health, most members here will be dead, burnt or buried by the time this comes to conclusion. And you know, do you want your words to say that you agreed a huge rural scar? Because this is exactly what it's going to be. And councillors, you are here tonight to judge this application on material planning merits, no more, no less. Well, it's unwanted, unneeded, a risk to health, a huge and problematic imposition on traffic, and in return, from what I can gather, we're going to get 25 grand to tart up some hedgerows. Great. And I'd like you to also consider, and history plays a part in planning applications in terms of the veracity of the company that are putting this forward. They pitched to this same committee in the past about what they're doing in South Ockenden. Well, you go and ask people in South Ockenden what they think about all the broken promises with, there weren't going to be trucks, but there are trucks parked up all over the place. They block roads and they pollute the countryside. You know, this is what this company's on its track record. I have a lot of emotion in what I'm saying here, but I really believe tonight, councillors, you have got an obligation to your residents. If you believe this is the wrong thing, don't sway from that decision. You have a duty to find the words and the directives to get reasons why this would lose if they take it to appeal. As I say, the overarching message is No super quarry. Protect our environment. Please do that, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Neil. Now, if you don't mind, I'll ask the panel, do you have any questions of a factual nature for Neil? Eric.
Thank you, Councillor Spade, for your speech. You, at the beginning of your speech, you said that David was didn't tell the truth about houses nearby. Would you be able to just guide us where those houses are? Because I'm on the map at the moment.
If you open up Google Maps, you'll see about maybe 100 yards, just about level with the entrance to the household tip, which has also been mysteriously excluded from any discussion, and the impact that it's going to have on all that queuing traffic on the road. There are a couple of houses there. If you go down to the junction on Buckingham Hill Road, there is one large white house and another couple of houses that are behind it. So, you know, I'm not saying there's housing estates, but there are residential people living on that road, and the officer clearly stated that they weren't, which questions his veracity.
Thank you.
Sorry, I turned myself off there. Russell and then Roy.
Thank you, Chair. Neil, David will never use the opportunity to mention the Linford amenity site as being a neighbour of this development. I often use this site, and then traffic isn't supposed to queue to go into that site, but they do. And traffic aren't supposed to do right turns into that
Sorry,
site.
Russell, I'm going to have to ask you to get to the question because we have a separate bit for the debate.
So, in your local opinion, is there any increased danger to those people using that amenity site who are queuing there with an increase of heavy HGV vehicles fully loaded with sand and materials? Is there any kind of danger that's perceived?
I think that sort of says it's almost a rhetorical question. If you've got a queue of 40 cars, and I've been in queues of 40 cars, and then you've got also cars doing illegal U-turns and drivers getting frustrated and angry, and you've got lorries also within that queue that are stopping people viewing what's going on, so they may then be tempted to overtake. And as we saw very graphically last night, somebody tried to overtake a lorry on Buckingham Hill Road, and we ended up with 3 people in hospital and a head-on collision, literally a few hundred yards from the entrance to that site. So, you know, these things are real, the danger is real. And, you know, the council itself has recognised that danger. This council put forward and approved a planning application that said, this is dangerous and we are going to improve the tip, we're going to make slip roads, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to make it safer because it is very dangerous. Now, that all got thrown out because of the financial situation, but it still lies on the statute book. That is an extremely dangerous piece of road, and we're talking about putting hundreds of HGVs on it a day. It answers itself. It's evidentially going to be increase the risk. Can't do anything else other than that.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks, Neil. Roy.
Thank you, Chair. Neil, in your estimation, what sort of negative impact is this going to have on the residents of both Stamford and Linford? Bearing in mind that, you know, we're not talking about this traffic. We've got a block-making company down the road as well. We've got a tipper company that's further down the road. This is a very, very busy road. The residents have kind of had years of this with mucking tip and everything.
If I may answer that in 2 parts, and I'm sure that Fraser Massey, when he comes up here to speak for the people, particularly of Linford and East Tilbury, will probably wax more lyrically than I am. And you're quite right, they've endured years of you know, they're finally getting a bit of respite. And it will, you know, you look on a map and you say, well, it stops short of them, but it will impact, because I'll tell you, invariably some traffic will divert across, they'll come through Chadwell and they'll come up up Buckingham Hill Road the different way. It's inevitable that will happen. You may well get some going down Butts Lane, possibly not, because there are road restrictions there. But we all know lorry drivers turn a blind eye a lot of the time to road restrictions. I think where there will be a significant impact, air quality will be diminished. It will definitely go down. You can't have all this sand and gravel and diesel exhausts and excavators. You know, these are big machines we're talking about. You know, I don't think they're electronic. If I am, then I apologise, but they'll be pumping out all sorts of God knows what, and it's got that gas, and that pollution is going to go somewhere, and it's going to drift over our areas. I find it really astonishing. Just the other side of the road, where the other side of the road, where we're now going to have a conveyor belt going over it, apparently. You know, there's a fantastic development just gone on there called Golden Lakes. We spent a huge amount of money as a council supporting it. Essex Wildlife Trust have built a brilliant facility with lakes that's just opening up. I was down there in the summer putting a plaque up in memory of somebody who loved that rural environment. But, you know, we're just now saying, oh, we've got a really nice facility. Tell you what, let's stick a quarry and a conveyor belt next to it just for the sake of it. So it's going to impact on recreational life. But also, and I go back to the point I made about lorry drivers. These lorry drivers that are coming here, we've heard they may be coming from South Essex places to bring other materials to be deposited there. Where are they going to be serviced? We know that the existing site isn't very big. There is an area there. They're going to take those lorries. They're going to do what they do in Ockenden. They're going to park up in Ockenden. They're going to park up in Stamford, or they'll maybe go down to Tilbury to get some fish and chips and park up and use the local facilities. It's inevitable. You can't blame the lorry drivers. You know, there are, you know, there's nothing for them on that site as far as I can see. So they're gonna run the risk coming in. And I'll talk about Stamford. We've had enough. You know, we've had enough. In a month's time, Stamford's going to get all the traffic in and out of DP World going down Corringham, Churchill, and London Road, because Manaway is going to be shut. So we're going to have 2 weeks of hell. And I'll tell you what, that's just going to be a forerunner of what this is going to bring.
Thank you. Anybody else? Neil, excuse me, I've got the one question. I think we have to, I suppose by way of context, my understanding, and please tell me if I'm wrong, David, is that if this new application is refused, there is an existing permission, so there is possibly going to be work done on the existing quarry anyway. In what respect is that? I mean, is that acceptable, or is that still going to cause problems, do you think?
I don't know whether it's acceptable. It's unwelcome, but at the end of the day, as David quite rightly pointed out, there is an existing planning permission for there. But there is, you know, you look at the map, and it's the size of it is there. They may well be able to get more sand and gravel out of it because they haven't been doing it for a number of years. They will, by the very nature of doing that, I imagine. You've heard the story you've all seen it in the letters you've got about bug life and taking away the sandbanks that are there and what have you. And they are making an effort to make a green area just on the corner, which is to be applauded. You know, I'm not recognising some of the things they're trying to do, but you know, you're talking about a very small quarry. If you look at it, that bit compared to the magnitude of the huge thing that you've got, that map just shows you. I mean, they're not just going down to Walton Road; they're going over the other side of it, where there's a lovely lake, a little small lake, which is a haven for wildlife and for birds and geese and swans. And we're going to stick a blooming conveyor belt over the top of them. It's just too much, I'm afraid, Mike. I really do think so.
Just as one point of correction, I believe the conveyor belt is going under. I've no idea how, but I don't know if that makes a difference.
In a tunnel under the road.
I've never seen a conveyor belt go under a road, so yeah.
It's been approved in the past for other parts. I think there was an underground connection from the Alsop quarry on the Brentford Road linking through to where Recycle Essex is now.
Okay, so we know that.
On that, Mike, I think it's brilliant. Thank you I wish you'd have said that in explaining it. It makes it clearer. But I would point down, and I'm sure residents of Tilbury, who may be speaking later on, they've got a very low-level conveyor belt on the wood chipyard next to Tilbury 2. And I'm afraid there's a hell of a lot of stuff comes off that before it goes under the bit that it goes under. So, you know, it's still going to be putting gravel and material in the air, whether it goes under or whether it goes over.
So, in effect, we're saying even if the existing quarry were to be reworked, what we're talking about is the difference in scale between that and what is proposed here. Would that be your point?
I couldn't stand here in all honesty and oppose that because it's got registered. As I say, it would be unwelcome, and I think it continues to make this huge problem we've got at Linford in the tip, you know, and it really is a problem that we need to address in the next couple of years. I don't think anybody who uses that tip would argue against that. It's far from perfect. And this would, you know, if you went back into the existing one, it would exacerbate it, the right turns, the left turns or whatever, but they've got planning permission. There's no point in having planning laws and then saying, oh, we don't like it retrospectively, we're going to chuck it out. It went through and it should stand. Fair enough.
Thanks, Neil. You may regain your seat. Right, we have a second statement, speaker statement of objection from Ward Councillor Fraser Massey. That can be found on pages 3 to 4 of the speaker statement booklet. Fraser, if you'd like to come down and get yourself comfortable. And yeah, you'll get the 3-minute clock up just in your own time.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, committee. Members of the committee, I stand with more of the statutory consultees, including Essex Wildlife Trust, Bugs Life, and Essex Field Club, and others, in the strongest possible objection to this application. My objections are based on 4 critical factors. Highways and public safety. We've already heard that Buckingham Hill is a very busy road, which only in recent times has enjoyed less HGVs, and the traffic queuing for the recycling centre regularly causes congestion. This can only be expected to rise as it is our only recycling centre in Thurrock, and continues to handle more residents' waste, and also visits to the second youth shop now will increase this. In East Tilbury Ward, we already have around 1,000 homes already approved in planning, which will add greatly to the amount of traffic on this road. And the road is not in great condition, even as it is. And the section 106 of 25,000, even if adjusted for inflation, really will not in any way suffice to maintain this road now or anywhere near 2040s. Secondly, air quality and public health. This area already suffers from some of the highest pollution levels in the UK. This development will introduce significant PM 2.5 particulate matter and dust. In planning terms, this represents a failure to protect the amenity and health of the community. With the Lower Thames crossing down the road and Norwich to Tilbury pylons beginning, and adding in a quarry here is a cumulative health burden that the local population, especially pupils at a nearby secondary school, physically cannot afford to bear. We are in the middle of some major projects, national infrastructure, plan and approve homes on a shrinking green belt. This application would do nothing to help alleviate these concerns. And the environmental damage. The expert consultees have been clear. The proposed mitigation is entirely inadequate. This site is a fantastic wildlife habitat, a vital piece of the green belt. To turn this into a quarry for decades is to permit irreplaceable damage to the landscape. To turn this area into a quarry will greatly damage the environment and the wildlife. And all the residents are getting in return some joined up pathways and an eco-park. We are losing our green spaces at an alarming rate in this area, and the committee is duty to protect what remains. But when it comes to the structure of our green belt, this is not for new homes or houses. This is just to generate income for a long-term quarry. And I feel that Section 106 does little to mitigate the damage done and impacts the environment and the residents. An impact to education and homes. The proximity to Linford and Maple Park, and the large secondary school and sixth form St Clair's is unacceptable. The noise and dust will not stop at the site boundary. We have seen failures of dust suppression systems in other parts of the borough. Let's not have it happen again. We have major issues at other sites, and this should not become another in damaging sites in the borough. These factors will impact the learning environment of our children and the quiet enjoyment of residents' homes, which there are some around the area. Furthermore, the presence of a high-pressure gas main near the site adds a layer of industrial risk that I don't think has been sufficiently addressed. To sum up, for decades, the people of East Tilbury, Linford and Stanford Hope have lived with noise, dust and smells of industry. We've had landfill, quarrying, mineral extraction, unexploded ordnances. We've had flies from landfill. We still suffer the hangover from it now. We've got the Lower Thames crossing, we've got the pylons. We're asking for the right to breathe. And this proposed overdevelopment of the centre of this site fails on traffic safety, health and environmental grounds. I'm over time, so thank you, committee.
Thank you, Fraser. Panel, any questions of a factual nature for Fraser? Roy.
Thank you, Fraser, for your statements. I'm going to ask you the same question as I asked Councillor Spate. What impact do you think this extra impact this is going to have on the residents? Bearing in mind all what's happened in the past, we're getting a bit of respite now, and there we're going to go. It's just not good enough.
As you know, East Tilbury and Linford are a bit of a cul-de-sac, really. There's one road, one major road in, one major road out. And when we had Walsh's in the past, the HGVs would park on the curb outside the shops. They'd block entrances. Because they weren't allowed in before a certain time in the morning, they'd park up on the side of the A13, on the old A13. It's going to put loads more HGVs on the area that's just getting a bit of a rest from it after decades of putting up with it. And we see just last night, like Neil said, it's a really dangerous road. There's some blind bends on it. It gets icy in the winter, it gets muddy. It's really not a great road anyway. And 25 grand's not going to help. not in any way. Not when you consider it's going into the 2040s. I think the amount of extra strain on the roads, we're getting more residents anyway, but those residents already live there are really going to be suffering from this.
Sure. Follow-up question, yeah?
We got a mobile home site now at Walton Hall. So, you know, there we are. We've got this wonderful new site that's been introduced.
And keep it to a question, right?
So, is that open, do we know?
Yeah, there's dozens of them. They're residential, sort of like retirement-style lodges. And yes, there's already some people, I believe, on site there. And so that is, like I say, it could be dozens of residents extra that's not really, they weren't even there in 2019 when this went through, it first went through. So yeah, I think there'll be an impact to more residents than we think.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Anybody else? Any questions for Fraser? No? Oh, yeah, Russell.
I think you mentioned the LTC as adding to the pollution, but do you think the building of the LTC will add to more heavy goods vehicle traffic using Buckingham Road? Is that also likely?
Thank you, Councillor Cherry. We're already seeing it. We're already seeing the vehicles coming down and putting up the site offices. They're already coming through Buckingham Hill. They're coming down to build the haul roads, and they're saying, oh, yeah, once the haul roads are done for the LTC, won't be so much of a problem. But they've still got to get into the haul roads. That's still going to mean coming down Muckingford Road, which is basically a lane, or Buckingham Hill, which is already over capacity a lot of the time. I mean, if you add in a quarry with LTC, it is just a recipe for disaster on that road. It really will create some problems. And we've got our only amenity site in the whole borough right in the middle of it. There's to be no escape for people, and it's just going to be purely dangerous, in my opinion.
Okay, thanks very much, Fraser. You may... And thirdly, we have a speaker statement of objection from Ward Councillor Gary Byrne. This is on pages 4 to 5 of your booklet. Gary, if you'd like to come down and take the hot seat. And as before, you've got 3 minutes in your own
Chair.
time.
As they've both said, thank you so much for letting us all speak. I know it's taken a lot to actually get 3 of us here. So. And I've cut out quite a lot because I think they've shown their passion, and I don't want to go over old ground. So, the quarry expansion for me should not even be on the table. While East Tilbury is drowning in the consequences of poor planning decisions, East Tilbury is not an empty space for developers to carve up as they please. It's a community with families, a village-type community spirit. Wildlife needs protecting. The already overstretched roads. They're already treacherous road conditions. Approving this quarry of this scale will mean many years of heavy lorry movements, noise, dust pollution, permanent damage to the rural landscape between East Tilbury, Linford and Stamford-le-Hope. Residents are not stakeholders to be managed through an online consultant box. They are people who live with this disruption every single day, and this is for 20 years, or 2,184 lorry movements in that time. Just think of that number, 2,184 lorry movements. Thurrock Council has not earned the trust to approve yet another major development that will scar East Tilbury and Linford for decades. The answer for me is simple. Planning Committee, do not wave it through. Stop, listen and reject. Thurrock does not need another extraction, put your teeth in, Gary, project. It needs protection, restoration and leadership that puts residents before industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Before I ask the members if they want to put any questions, the question has been raised, but I probably ought to explain. Gary's down here as a ward councillor. His ward isn't the ward in which the actual site is. However, this was the point I made at the start, that given the particularly the traffic implications, Gary's is one of the wards that we think would be directly impacted, which is why he's speaking as a councillor rather than just as a resident. Okay, just in case anybody was wondering. Okay, so any questions for Gary? Oh, great. You get the easy job.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have a further statement of objection, which is just down as a written statement in your reports. And then we have a statement of support, a speaker statement of support from Dan Walker, who's the applicant. And it can be found on pages 5 to 7 of the speaker statement booklet. Is this, yes, just the right button down, and that as soon as it lights up, you're good to go. You'll have 3 minutes and in your own time.
Chair and members of the Planning Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you in relation to this plan application at Orsett Quarry. You've read the committee report prepared by your officers following multiple phases of detailed and effective consultation, so I won't repeat the content, just address some of the more pertinent points. The proposals are for a southern extension to the quarry to extract an estimated 1.5 million tonnes of sand and gravel, in tandem with the recovery of the remaining reserves of fine sand in the older parts of the site. Minerals working is a temporary land use and is wholly compatible with Green Belt policy. By extracting this sand and gravel, Ingerborn provides a much-needed local source of construction materials to the borough and the surrounding areas. A part of the council's own evidence base in support of the emerging local plan, there is an identified need for anything up to 6,905 homes in the next 5 years, each of which could require in excess of 50 tonnes of construction materials. So there are also a range of infrastructure projects in a wider area which have been reported across the different presentations. The site has played a fundamental role in enabling the council to meet its targets in respect of inert materials management capacity, and the proposed extension will offer further capacity to meet this future target. The proposals have been subject to an iterative design process, in particular with the input of Natural England, that will enable Ingerborn to continue to build upon previous successes in the establishment and management of high-quality nature conservation habitat. The proposals include for the retention of certain areas of high-quality habitat found in older parts of the quarry, and the implementation of management plans that can be informed by ongoing discussions with the nature conservation groups, including compensatory habitats, creating further benefit over and above already approved plans. There are no proposals to increase outputs or HGV activity over currently approved rates, which are proven acceptable in highway safety and capacity terms, and existing restrictions on HGV routing will be strictly enforced by the operator. There are no proposals to change approved working hours, and the application is supported by impact assessments, which together with detailed management plans have been scrutinised by the council's own specialists, noise, dust and wider amenity, to control the potential noise and dust-based impacts relative to local residents and other sensitive receptors. The scheme will result in a long-term security for 25 mainly locally employed persons and a broad ability to support the council in achieving economic growth consistent with development plan objectives. In summary, granting consent will allow Ingerborn to extract the reserves in the proposed extension to meet a recognised need for local materials to supply housing and other development projects in the borough. The scheme also includes plans to manage the biodiversity of the site through phased passive translocation of habitats and species over time, together with an enhanced restoration scheme to deliver a long-term nature conservation benefit consistent with nature recovery strategies. All the concerns have been raised and appropriate mitigation measures are included in the planning conditions that are attached to the committee report, and your office has made a balanced recommendation for approval, which is supported by Ingerborn. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, panel, anybody got any questions of a factual nature for Dan? Russell.
Thank you for your report there. I think I read somewhere in here, but I can't seem to find it now, that many of these lorry movements will be going to Thorley in Hertfordshire. Is that something I've read?
So the reference to Thorley is there's an existing quarry that IVL operate. The proposal is to take the mineral washing plant from that site and use it here. There'll be no interconnection between this site and the site at Thorley. It's just strictly the movement of that processing plant.
Thank you. So this anticipated movement of vehicles, I think 80-something vehicles a day, where will they actually be going moving the sand from that site to?
Okay, so the sand and gravel is taken from the extension, put buoyant into the plant site for processing, and then sent out to development projects, mainly in Thurrock, but also into the Greater Essex area, potentially into parts of the Greater London Authority. But the main focus is as a local site to meet that local need.
And you've seen the road yourself that's been discussed this evening. You've offered £25,000 to make repairs to the road, which I don't think is anything these days, £25,000. There's only filled a few potholes. Would you push to give us more money to improve that road, because we desperately need that slip road into that amenity site, because at the moment it is not a safe road, and it won't be with all the extra movements of lorries on it.
Yeah, I think there's a willingness potentially to discuss a bigger one-off sum, mainly different an annual contribution of a degree. I don't know how that gets framed through this committee, if truth be told. I don't know if it's something that delegated to the officers, planning officers, I don't know. But yeah, there's a potential to discuss something, yes.
Okay, thanks. Any other? Roy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just one question. Not sure. Apart from obviously extraction of materials that will be taken away from the site, will there be any materials coming into the site to go into the washing plant?
No, it's all indigenous materials. It's all materials won for the site. The only thing that we seek to import is the inert materials to facilitate the restoration of the extraction void.
What materials are they?
So yeah, that's kind of your clays, your excavation arising from development projects in the area. So every development site has a soils or clay materials cleared off that site. They're traditionally brought into mineral workings because they can enable and facilitate the restoration of a mineral working to great benefit. We can reinstate the agricultural land, we can deliver nature conservation benefit, we can reinstate the landscape, and in some instances we can provide other benefits like recreational or flood storage benefit. There's, you know, all the use of these materials is of massive benefit when composed to other kind of forms of waste management.
Kathy.
Thank you. Do you foresee any work with the Lower Thames crossing, and might they be asking you to use the infill for some of their waste?
Potentially, yes. I don't know. Is the truth be told? That'll just come down to a commercial discussion and between the kind of project deliverers of the Lower Thames crossing. So they'll appoint a principal contractor. That principal contractor will select companies to supply materials or source sites that can accept the type of arisings that the tunnel will generate. This site, yes, it's there, it's available, and it can support LTC and any other development projects in the borough. That's what it's there for. But
Thank you. Anybody else? Great. Well, thanks, Dan. You can go back to your seat now. Thank you very much. Right. We will now go on with any questions that you have for David. And if I might suggest that if you have any questions arising from what you've already heard from the statements of objection, do feel free to, because I'd rather David got the opportunity to clarify points that have been made. Okay, Aaron.
Thank you, David. At the beginning of Councillor Spate's objection, he said that you got it wrong about the buildings nearby and residential. Would you like to clarify?
The closest buildings are the Walton Hall Road area, which are down. Sorry, I think the buildings closest to the site itself are in the Walton Hall Road area, where there's Walton Hall Farm. There's what was the caravan site with seasonal occupation, but now has But now has mobile
You mind, we need to
accommodation
be able to have the
permanent
conversation and
resident-
hear each other having it. Thank you.
But now has permanent residential accommodation on it, which is being offered for sale. There is Turner's Farm on the opposite side of the road, and there are one or two other properties along Wanton Hall Farm. If I was mistaken about any properties on Buckingham Hill Road, I do apologise, but there are very few indeed, between there and the A1013.
Okay, any other questions? Kathy.
Thank you. You referred to the Thurrock's need for mineral extraction sites. Has there been any other locations looked at?
I don't know what planning policy have looked at it with regard to the emerging local plan. You know where the existing quarries are. As I said, there's Recycle, Orsett, and there's another redundant quarry site on the east side of Brentwood Road. As I said before, this is the only quarry with an extant permission. Nowhere else has, as far as I'm aware, made any pre-application submissions to the local authority. There is another site down at towards Mucking, which is just finishing its restoration. So that will be finished within the next 12 to 24 months and will not provide building material. So it's worked out effectively. As far as I'm aware, this is the only site.
Russell.
David, this offer of £25,000, for the maintenance of the road, or any damage to the verges, is paltry. We're missing out on a huge opportunity here to have that road sorted out. If they want to use it for these traffic movements, then it should be made safe for the rest of the public. And why aren't we asking for, say, a slip road into that amenity site, or even for the road to be widened from that point, because a serious accident is going to happen?
I'm going to leave some of that to our highway engineer. The request came from Highways in the first place. That's the first thing. Is it enough? I don't know. But it was specifically to repair any potential damage to the road verges. Should we be asking for more money? You can only ask what is justifiable and will be resulting and arising from this development proposal. Can you ask for a slip road into the tip, your refuse site? In my opinion, no. You cannot. It is unjustifiable. I'm not saying it's not necessary, but it's not justifiable. But again, I think I ought to let Matt answer that.
Thank you, Chair. We've got a tough problem with this one. The site, as David said, is an existing site. It's got an approval on it for a number of HGV movements. That permission's been in place and has been enacted since early 2000. So, for the benefit of members, that's up to 300 HGV movements per day, 150 in, 150 out. When looking at this one, whilst it is a massive extension to the development site, they have identified within their own transport assessment that they can safely accommodate that expansion within that condition from the extant permission. So in terms of when you're looking at a transport assessment to see what the impact's likely to be, the starting point is always going to be what is the extant permission on the site and what is going to be the impact arising from the development. I understand that they don't do the 300 vehicle movements per day at the moment, but they could tomorrow start doing 300 HGV movements per day. So that's our starting point on that. In terms of the impact, we have had many discussions with them about how they're operating, which is the reason why the culvert underneath Wharton Hall Road is being constructed to provide that conveyor belt, so we can mitigate the impact on Wharton Hall Road, because the initial proposal was to just put a temporary traffic signal in and run vehicles across that road, which we was not happy with. So we've worked hard to get the mitigation that we've got before you today. The £25,000 contribution, that was through discussions with network management team and with our highways maintenance team, and that was specifically with regards to haunch repair on Buckingham Road between the site and the A1013, where it was identified that it was actually, the damage was quite severe, and that's where that 25,000 come from. Whether or not members, you wanted to explore what the speaker said about an annual contribution or a higher lump sum, that's within your gift to discuss. But we've obviously looked at it from the point of view of what can we get in terms of mitigation based on the pre-existing permission of 300 HGV movements, no material increase in that.
Yeah, we may not have had those 300 vehicle movements recently, but it's going to happen if they get this planning permission for this huge extension to the operation. I've just been quoted £10,000 for my driveway to be done. You know, what's £25,000 seriously going to do? And that's only one payment of £25,000 for all the inconvenience that's going to happen, for the potential loss of life that could happen, because there's always queuing. There's cars that can't come down, they can't do a right turn, but they do. And there's always cars using the entrance to this quarry to turn around in to get back to join the queue into the amenity site. On top of that, we've got the extra 1,000 homes for East Tilbury that's going to come as well. You know, this is just not a good idea. And £25,000, is that really the best we can do to satisfy anybody who are objecting and then might have to suffer this in the future?
Russell, I'll assume that the question is around the 25 and can we do more? Yeah. Okay. Again, absolutely fine, but we just need to keep the debate for the debate. Roy, you wanted to come in?
Just like to clarify something, Chair, please. I believe there may be some homes, or is a pre-application for some homes on the St Clears golf course, where the 9-hole golf course is, which will be basically on the corner there where Buckingham Hill Road is. You know, this wouldn't be in a nice place, should we say, with all this traffic coming through. Do we know, David, if that's in the cards?
I can tell you that I have an application which I hope will be coming to the March Committee for 121 houses on land immediately to the south of St Clair's School on Butts Lane. That's all I know.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, David. Yeah, the point being is that, once again, you could call it urban sprawl, shall we? We're going out that way towards Buckingham Road. St Clair's Golf Course sits on the A13 there. Just as you come up to where the lights are, you can turn into Buckingham Hill. All I'm looking is for the future, Chair. You know, there we are. Something else that's going to be built right on top.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, but let's keep it for the debate. Yeah, best bet. Okay. Any other questions for David? If I've just a couple from my own part, David. So lots been said about Buckingham Hill Road in particular. What work was done to evaluate the impact on Buckingham Hill Road? I know we've got the 300. Lorry trips a day, but what have we done to quantify what impact that's going to have on Buckingham Hill Road, given the current pattern of usage, given the size and state of the road?
There's a full transport assessment submitted with the application. Highways have evaluated that, and as part of their evaluation, will have determined whether the number of movements would cause danger to other road users. That's part of their responsibility. So that matter has been assessed. In terms of environmental impact of when I say additional traffic, you'll know what I mean, but the 300 movements per day, there was a noise impact assessment and an air quality assessment submitted with the application. Neither indicated that there were any cause for concern, and that was supported by our environmental health department in their consultation response.
Thanks. And my other question, the high pressure gas main that was mentioned, have we factored that into our consideration?
Yes, from memory, there was a consultation response from the relevant authority with no objection. The other factor is Network Rail, because there's a railway line immediately to the east of the land on the south side of Waltons Hall Road. And again, the mitigation for that was keeping the excavation well away from the railway line. So that's been fully investigated as well.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, we can move on to the debate. Aaron.
Thank you, Chair. This application, I do not like it. We've got objections from the RSPB. We've got animals that are going to suffer through this, and I'm going to be voting against this on whatever that word is. Yeah, that word. So I'm against this application.
Thank you, Aaron. Jackie.
Thank you, Chair. From a wildlife and an environmental perspective, this is deeply troubling. I mean, the last application I saw like this that made me feel physically sick was one in my own ward. This, I think, is a disgrace. These residents are living near Buckingham Hill Road. They have had years, they've endured years of disruption, years of it, caused by mess, heavy lorries, the noise, the dust, and we're going to put them back into that situation again. I mean, when I don't know whether I can say this or not, but hey ho, I'm going to say it. When I worked for the outgoing MP, his inbox was full of emails from residents like these people that couldn't move anywhere. They couldn't go anywhere. Their lives were completely blighted. And I think it's appalling. I don't think we can do it to these people again. They've just got a period of settlement and we're off again. And it's just an assault on our environment once again.
Roy and then Russell.
Thank you, Chair. You know, for years we've had mucking tip, realistically, and lorries have been using that. Now what we got at the moment, I mean, that was a big hole and they was filling it in with all the waste that was coming from London. That was going on for years. Now the next thing, that was supposed to stop. David quite rightly said that possibly there's another 2 years extension to that. I know for a fact that that's been going extended. The hole got bigger. Now it's mountains of dirt because they're bringing in earth now on these barges that's coming to the mucking wharf. The residents now, if you look round that area, when you see these barges coming in and being unloaded, honestly, I've been down there. It's a filthy sight. There's dust everywhere. It goes on for miles. The thing being is now we're going to put a big quarry next door to, not too far away from a new development at Linford. There's going to be an impact on Buckingham Hill Road with all that extra traffic. Now we just heard there's going to be another development up the other end, and no doubt there's other things in the pipeline. We're trying to make things a bit more environmentally friendly for our residents, not leaving Thurrock in, should we say, holes everywhere that then's going to be filled in at a later date, because it doesn't stop at just digging the, oh, we're going to fill it in now. And then that gets another extension for another year, another 2 years, that these people got to suffer. So I definitely will be voting against this. And yeah, thank you for the time being.
Thanks, Roy. Russell and then Linda.
Thank you, Chair. I think it was mentioned that Thurrock needs to secure a supply of minerals and maintain a 7-year land bank as required by the National Policy, or the NPPF, I can't remember what it actually stands for anymore. But we're told, because of LGR, etc., that Thurrock's not going to be around anymore. So why should we be worrying about our mineral supply as Thurrock when in the future Thurrock won't exist? During which time we would have ruined and blighted a lot of people's homes in Thurrock that are alongside this this quarry, and then Thurrock no longer exists. I'm also deeply concerned that we've only got the one amenity site in Thurrock, and I've been sitting on the local plan and I'll keep asking for more than one amenity site, one to the west of the borough, because all the additional housing we're going to be expected to find, there's going to be more and more people needing to get rid of rubbish. And that means more and more people going to this site in Buckingham Hill Road, and it's going to create more and more congestion. Now, I'm afraid that's just not acceptable, and it's going to lead to the loss of someone's life. And I don't think we should have that on our conscience. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Linda.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with everything that's being said. The risk on that road with 300 movements a day, you know, it's just an accident waiting to happen with the amenity site and everything. And the risks to the conservation, you know, the concerns that have been raised, I am really concerned about that. You know, Wildlife Trust, Bug Life, they're all concerned. So, yeah, I'm not happy with this at all.
Thanks, Linda. Anybody else? No? I'm going to just... Do you want to? Or? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with what other members of the committee have said. I'm worried about the ecological aspects of it. I'm worried that BugLife don't want the restoration of the current quarry, and that is a concern because presumably that will happen if we refuse this application. But what will also happen is the destruction of a much wider area. And even if we do pass it, they'll say there'll be a working group to look at the restoration, but at no point are they saying, no, we'll leave it to wildlife. You know, they will still come and destroy that habitat to some extent. So, and the roads are not built for that many lorries. I can't see it being feasible at all. So, yeah, sorry, I'll be against it.
Chair.
Thanks, Kathy. Roy?
Thank you. If you look at where Mucking Tip is, we've just got the nice, should we say, it's been built, the bird sanctuary. So it's been made to look nice. That was once a pit. It's been filled in and it's been restored. Now that is supposed to be moving on to Mucking Tip. As David quite rightly said, that's been put back. But that was all supposed to be done by now. And once again, residents have been waiting. You know, we're always waiting for something to happen. You know, you're going to get this tomorrow. It's always tomorrow. You know, so realistically, this is what we should be doing now. You know, Thurrock was full of pits at one time, chalk pits, sand and gravel pits all over the show. We should be making these areas now. We're not stopping, Chair, we're not stopping this company still working. They've still got a supply there that they can be, you know, should we say, extracting. So we're not stopping them working, and they've got a few years in which to do this. But what I'm saying is what we're looking to do is to make things better, make this more of an environmentally friendly area. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. So I just want to sum a couple of things up, and to a degree, somebody has to be the devil's advocate, so that's got to be me. So it seems we have three areas really where we're unhappy. The traffic and specifically safety, scale and safety of traffic is one. The pollution aspect is two, and the third is the environmental impact. Now, I think it's incumbent on me to point out the environmental impacts. We have Natural England now saying that subject to conditions, they are prepared to accept the development. So I have to say that. Secondly, with the traffic safety, we've talked about the S106 money being insufficient. Were we to decide that it needs more of a contribution, that is a condition. And as we've said before, if you feel that something should be changed by condition, that is a reason for setting a condition, not a reason for refusing. I have to say that. Pollution, okay, we've got the environmental safety department saying that it doesn't concern them, but equally we've heard people actually talking about their own experience, and so I would say it's for you to decide whether that the environmental officer's okay is good enough for you, or whether you feel actually that it needs more looking at. So really there are three areas. Potentially, at least one of them can be dealt with via conditions, but then you have to decide, well, is there a condition big enough to enable us to use that road in the way that the applicant wants to use it? Is that possible? It's not just a question of how much do you want, it's a question of is it possible to turn that road into something that can be used by 300 lorries a day at the same time as it's being used for our only amenity, etc. So your decision that you need to make, it's not black and white, it never is. You've quite clearly indicated your thoughts around the three areas of concern. As I say, I need to point out one, that where you feel that conditions could be set out, then it's for us to state what those conditions are. If you feel that actually, no, it couldn't be done in a way that would be livable with for local people and for the borough, then okay, then that would be a reason to refuse. In terms of material reasons, I'm sure if we go down that route, we will. I'll ask for council to be clear with us. Does anybody else have anything they want to say before we move to the vote?
Yeah, Chair, I don't want to go down that route with conditions as to sort of accept it with conditions, because we've done this previous and, it leaves it wide open. I don't think the thing's acceptable. Realistically, this should come back once all them houses in Linford's built and see the extra traffic that's on that road, and then you can assess it in a better way.
Aaron.
Thank you, Chair. While we shouldn't be looking at us losing at an appeal, I would like us to have the best conditions on there, that if we did reject this, best refusal, reasons, that if we did lose this, if we did if we did go to appeal, we would win it, and we would not be here, and it would be overturned. So I don't believe the highways would be sufficient, but I would ask to seek counsel on that. But I think the ecological would be the strongest case to refuse this. And personally, I think we'd win that on that alone.
Thank you. Russell.
If you were considering conditions, I think that road, Buckingham Hill Road, should have a very substantial widening to it, a roundabout system for an entrance to the amenity site, so that traffic coming from the north can use it without having to go beyond it and then finding a place to turn. And generally they'll either turn into the entrance of the quarry, or they'll go further down to tarmac and do a quick spin around, or they'll they'll go down to the next junction and do a quick spin around. It's all going to lead to a serious accident. That road needs to be fully developed with a roundabout as an entrance to the amenity site, and I think that would be very substantial cost, and that would have to be agreed before I could agree to anything regards this condition.
Thanks, Russell. Okay, so I will move to the recommendation. And the recommendation is that the Chief Planning Officer be authorised to grant permission for this development, subject to those items set out in section 16 of the report. And David has outlined the conditions in the S106 obligation agreement that has been agreed so far. There is also the condition that if the freehold owner shall fail to enter into an S106 obligation agreement, the Chief Planning Officer would then be authorised to refuse permission. So that's part of the recommendation here. So, do I have a proposer for the recommendation? Then I believe the recommendation falls. Okay, if you give me a couple of minutes, I'd like to have a quick chat with my colleagues on the right and see where we go from here. So what we need to do is to come up with an alternative recommendation to the one that's just fallen. And what Ash has offered to do, which I think will be very useful, will be to run through the points that we've been making during the discussion and help us to see where we can actually form a material alternative recommendation. Ash?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So in terms of the debate, in terms of material planning considerations, members have identified ecological and wildlife concerns, also noise and disturbance, and also concerns around transport movements and mitigation. The points made regarding LGR is certainly not a material consideration, so I would steer members away from that. We do need to continue to make planning decisions. So, but they were fundamentally the kind of 3 points. I can talk to the strength of those if members wish, but ultimately members will need to come up with their reasons for refusal, but they are material planning reasons.
Okay, Aaron, then Tom.
I think it would be useful to hear the strength of each one, because I think before we make a decision, I want to make this the strongest it possibly can be.
Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If you don't mind, I've not spoke, but obviously I've listened to what members have said. I'll come up with some reasons here that I believe are material enough to potentially refuse, and it's just really picking up on what members have said, and then once I've said, Ashley, if you can come back and let me know where we are. Yeah?
I think that would be useful because that gives us something to actually, I was going to say shoot at, but you know what I mean, Tom. So,
okay, thank you. So, obviously members are minded to refuse the application. Material reason for refusal would be environmental impact. And under environmental impacts, I believe cumulative impacts is a good argument. What we're saying here is that whilst this site has been active for 20 years, obviously there's been a huge amount of pressure on Buckingham Hill Road. The crossing at East Tilbury is obviously a main route in and out, and there's also been more houses in the East Tilbury and Linford area, and with that I would also add traffic congestion. Now I accept that they already have planning for these lorries to come in and out of sight, but it is on a narrow road. There is a very busy junction on both north and south of the quarry, and as such, the cumulative impact over the last 20 years, I think, is now making this very, very difficult for members to approve. Lastly, I would also add under environmental quality, reduced air quality in nearby towns. And it's just whether we also add all that up together and argue, is this actually a sustainable location for this particular site? Although I'm not sure whether we should add that. So if officers could sum up what I've said there and whether that would be enough to refuse, although I must admit they are serious material considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Ash?
So they are material planning considerations, so members are entitled to use those as reasons. My view is that realistically defending those at appeal is going to be challenging given the conditions attached to the application, given the heads of terms set out in the 106, and also the non-objections from Natural England in particular. I do consider that does mean that we will struggle to sustain these at appeal. My advice to committee would be to identify, if those are the reasons that committee wish to go down, it would be to do a minded to defer, and then for an officer report to come back identifying the points on each of those reasons, and then committee, if they're still minded to refuse on that basis, can do so. Obviously, it is within committee's gift to just make the decision, but based on those points put forward, I wouldn't advise it. I do advise a minded to defer. And obviously, Andre, if you wish to come in, please do so.
Yes, absolutely. Although there are planning material considerations, members must satisfy themselves that where they reach a decision contrary to the officer's recommendation, their reasons are substantiated by evidence and that they're able to demonstrate a reasonable planning ground for taking a decision contrary to the officer's advice. So if members still wish to refuse, then you should, under the Constitution, under 7.3, provide a mandate to refuse. So a subsequent committee meeting, the planning officer will prepare a further... I'm not sure where.
So can I just summarise what I think you're saying, Andrew? So our objections, our reasons for refusal are material. We're basically saying that we're not necessarily sure that they would be sustainable if it went to appeal. The advice we're being given is for a recommendation of minded to refuse, which would allow officers to go away and review and address the points that we've raised.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the point about that would be that officers will come back. I'm sorry, I'd like to remind you that you're here by all means to listen to the debate, but I'm afraid you can't take part in it. Thank you. Our point is, if we want to refuse, we refuse. If that's the view of the committee, then that's what our view is. Minded to refuse gives us the opportunity to make sure that we've actually got a robust reason for refusal. But if we feel we've got a robust enough one now, then by all means, go for it. Russell.
Chair, can we find out from the officers what it would cost to have that road upgraded to make it safe for the use of the public and the people using the amenity site, and then come back to us, because I'm feeling that that should be done.
So what we could do, if we were to bring the item back to committee, whether it's just deferred or minded to refuse, we could certainly look to enter into further discussions with the applicant and provide some more information around the costs of road improvements. In terms of what that will look like at committee, I don't know, because obviously we'd have to go and speak to Holloway's colleagues to come and do that work, but certainly we can add more detail to the report. That's not an issue.
Tom, and then Roy.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. So it is quite common for us to take it away and come back. I mean, my own personal opinion is, I wonder what you think on this. If you think it's something that we should be doing, then I'm happy to follow your lead on it. If not, then maybe we proceed to the vote.
I personally feel that there are, from what you've said, there are a number of elements. I think it'd be very difficult to see conditions that we could raise that would actually address the issues that people have raised. I personally think that, I know we've talked about the environmental impact. I think the safety impact is one that to me is particularly important. I would be inclined to, personally, I'd be inclined to refuse it. Roy.
Thank you, Chair. That's basically what I was going to say. I minded to refuse it and take our chances because I think that that road is a very dangerous road. Unless they're going to put a motorway through there, and maybe in years to come, because of the development at Linford and other developments, there may be better roads put in, and then you can address this later. We're not shutting this company down. There's still got work there to be done for the next few years. There's got stuff to be extracted. But I'm minded to refuse this now for safety reasons, infrastructure, ecological, you name it, we'll roll it all into one.
I do feel that's the view of the committee. We have the two options before us, so what I will do, before I actually do anything, I'll check what these two are talking about and then I'll come straight back to you. Sorry, yes, Aaron.
Thank you, Chair. While I agree with Councillor Jones on this, we should just go and do it now. I do not want this to go to appeal, and I want us, if it does go to appeal, I want us to be at the most strongest place. I do not want this to go to appeal, yeah, and they say and overturn what we've decided, and these people in East Tilbury get it anyway. So we've got to be mindful of that. We've got to make sure it's strong, and that what we are saying is strong. I don't want it to go and be overturned. So what we decide here tonight has to be strong and hold up.
Any further thoughts? I mean, if we're going to do that, are we in a position to do that tonight, or do we need to defer mindful to refuse? Okay,
no,
2 seconds.
I think we go for refuse, Chair. Let's go for it. I think we've got strong enough evidence that that road is not a safe road. There's going to be an increase in traffic, so...
Thanks, Roy. Ash.
So look, committee have the gift to make the decision. My role is to advise committee. So if committee wants to do something, you need to get the advice. So the Constitution's clear, and my experience is clear in the sense that you must have that clear and substantiated evidence if you are going to refuse. So you need to be absolutely confident that that evidence is strong and sufficient to defend any refusal reason. So my question to committee, somewhat rhetorical, but you must reflect on this, is that strong enough, given that you've got, say from Highways perspective, the Highways Authority not objecting to the application? You should give that substantial weight. But ultimately it's up to committee to come to the view, and I respect the chair's position of potentially moving to a refusal. I would also draw committee to similar applications where a decision was made on the evening. So there's one in Hatfield in Hertfordshire. Committee made the decision to refuse. At the point of appeal, they withdrew their refusal reasons. So ultimately, there is a risk that the reasons you identify are not strong enough to be substantiated, and then we become in a position where we can't defend that refusal. So I would suggest to committee, I'll reiterate my recommendation earlier, that a minded to refuse gives the opportunity for officers to identify feedback on those refusal reasons, and then if committee is still of the opinion that they are to refuse the application, then at least you've had that further information. But ultimately, I think I've said everything I possibly can. So it's either to chair and committee now.
So, what I propose to do is to put up the recommendation to refuse. If you feel that, as Aaron has said, that we need to be watertight, then don't vote for that recommendation. And our next recommendation will be to defer mindful to refuse. Okay? So, refusal, okay, the recommend, yes, gentlemen, do feel free, because I'm talking here and going nowhere.
Sorry, so I feel that we go for the insurance of refusing but bringing it back, but I also appreciate that doesn't sound like the appetite of the committee, so I'm not going to, I appreciate I proposed it. My proposals would hopefully bring it back with insurance, but if you want to continue to go ahead with refusal, I'm also not going to stop that, Chair, if that makes more sense. Thank you.
And Russell.
I really want to know the attitude of the applicants if we took it back to them and discussed the safety aspects of that road. And they're going to be, if they get permission to do what they want to do, they're going to be making substantial amounts of profit. And that road being improved will be a benefit for them too also. So I'd like to hear from the officers, you know, what that kind of development of that road would cost and whether or not there could be any consultation with the applicant over it.
I think probably the only way we can have that conversation is if we deferred minded to refuse. So I will put up the recommendation to refuse, and if we don't pass that, we'll move on to minded to refuse. Now, refusal on the grounds, the point's been made, we need to have clear and robust reasons. So if I can remember what you said, Tom, our reasons for refusal are: one, environmental impact, particularly given the changes to the environment since the original permission was given. We believe there have been material changes, and all of them putting extra pressure on the environment. I would also be inclined to refuse on the grounds of safety, given the size of the road, the condition of the road, and the volume of traffic that is proposed to be on it. So I will put forward the recommendation to refuse based on those 2 points. Tom, by all means.
Yeah, just to clarify, so that would be the cumulative impact, and then the only one else was the air quality for nearby towns. That was the other thing that was mentioned.
Well, yes.
And it's just whether you wanted to add sustainability, but I'm not sure on that one. I'll leave that one to you. Thank you.
Well, if we go with the environmental impact, the road safety, and the cumulative impact, road safety, and our concerns around pollution. Are we okay on those three? I need to get to the recommendation, but I need to be happy that you think everything that should be in there is in there.
Yeah, and you just to confirm, proposer and seconder as well before the vote. Yeah.
I'm trying to get to that point, but you need to know what's being proposed and seconded. So that is the proposal to refuse based on those points that we have just made: the cumulative impact, the road safety, and the pollution impact on the surrounding area. Do I have a proposer? Jackie? Do I have a seconder? Roy? Okay. Those in favour of refusal? So I have 7. Those against the proposal to refuse? And any abstentions? 2. Okay. Thank you very much. So the recommendation falls and the application is refused permission. Okay, so item 7 on our agenda is St. Sed's Court, Cramerville Street, Stifford Clays. And could I ask Nadia, if you're still there, still with us, to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I was just waiting a moment for things to settle down. Hopefully you can all hear me. So this application here at St Sed's Court, Cramerville Street, is the 5th application from Thurrock Council in relation to window and door changes to some flat blocks. Four previous applications came before committee on the 10th of February. I'm just waiting for Carly to give me full control. There you go. So the application relates to St Sed's Court, as you can see before you, residential development in Stifford. And the proposal has been submitted in relation to recent fire safety checks at the site, specifically in regard to doors and windows on the ground floor elevations of 6 blocks at the site. And these are exterior doors and windows that serve a central corridor area, not that serve individual properties. And the proposal, unlike the 4 previous schemes before members, seeks to remove those doors and windows entirely and not to replace them with fire appropriate doors or windows. They're just to be removed. Some existing elevations before you, and a close-up of the existing window detailing and doors, and the proposed elevations. So the ground floors would simply be opened up, so that corridor would be exposed.
Yeah, just checking with Ash whether that's something we need to pick up.
Well, we're live stream, so I mean, I don't know the constitution on that sense, but I don't necessarily see it as an issue because obviously we're on live stream. But point noted.
It's worth asking the question, and I think what we're saying is basically we're okay with it. Okay, where were we? We're in the middle of windows, and I think we were going to be looking at the proposed elevations with less windows.
Thank you, Chair. And the ground floor elevations of St Sed's Court would have those doors and windows removed. There will be no material impact to the overall appearance or the materials used in the block. And here are some images of the site that show those windows and doors that would be removed. And some of the interior corridor there, that's the communal corridor that will be exposed as a result. There are no objections to the proposal. It's very much a needed alteration to St Sed's and fully complies with all relevant core strategy policies and is recommended to members for approval.
Thanks, Nadia. Any questions for Nadia? No? Okay. Any points of debate that anybody wants to bring up, or should we go straight to the... Sue?
I'm in full agreement of them getting new windows because that area does need tidying up. So, yeah, I'm for it.
Great. So,
I was just
yes,
going to thank Nadia for her presentation and say I think it's a wonderful thing and we should go ahead with it. There you go. So.
Well, you're in agreement. Okay, should we go to the vote? So the recommendation is that the Chief Planning Officer be authorised to grant planning permission for the development, subject to those reasons set out in section 16 of the report. Do I have a proposer? Aaron? Seconder? Sue? All those in favour? Are we? So can we keep our hands up for the minute? That's it. We use the Mayor's rules here, hands fully up. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. I think that's unanimous. Right, thank you, Nadia. So we move on to item 8, Deval House, although I think, Lottie, you're going to explain that it's actually slightly wider than that. So, Lottie, if you would present the report to us, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Yes, on your agenda front sheet, there is a slight error in that it lists Deval House as a singular entity. The application actually relates to Deval House, Greenwood House and Butler House, but the report itself does say that in the kind of title and throughout the report. This application and the following application are being presented to you as they are Thurrock Council applications. We are the landowners, and in line with the Constitution, that's why they're coming forward. They are fairly identical applications, but as they are separate sites and separate applications, we're going to address them as two separate presentations, but largely the detail is almost identical. So this application is 2501307 CV, which relates to Deval House, Greenwood House and Butler House. Just some housekeeping before I start. Since the time of publication, Essex Fire Service have commented that they are no longer a statutory consultee, and as such they have no comment at this time. This is the application site. In August 2020, Planning Committee granted planning permission for the replacement of the external wall coverings, windows, communal entrance canopies, and the installation of new external lighting and roof guardrails at Deval House, Greenwood House and Butler House under reference 20.00.409 TBC. The current application is a Thurrock Council Section 73 condition variation application seeking permission to vary condition number 2, the approved plans, and number 3, materials of that consent to reflect an amended design which is necessary to meet building regulations regarding fire performance, which I will speak to later. While the application is not listed as retrospective, the approved works under the previous application had begun prior to submission, and I've received confirmation that the works were completed during the determination period of the current application, just for clarity. As you can see on the location plan, the application site is an L-shaped area of land on the western corner of Argent Street and Sherfield Road. Oh, that's changed, good. Thank you. The site comprises 3 broadly identical 12-storey tower blocks, namely Deval House, Greenwood House and Butler House. The application site is largely central in this photo and is surrounded by a variety of uses, including residential properties, pubs and cafes, open parkland, and the Thurrock Learning Campus. For context, I've provided the previously approved elevations rather than the previously existing elevations. And these demonstrate the similarity between the 3 blocks. The proposed elevations show the design of the scheme as amended, and the changes sought, which are applicable to all 3 blocks, are as follows. Exposing the existing vents on the east and west elevations, exposing the existing automatic opening vents on the north elevation, amendment of the consented glass canopy entrance located at the northern elevation to a polycarbonate canopy, amendment of the consented pitch roofs located at the ground floor of the west and east elevations to flat roofs, and the addition of a dark grey render to small areas of the north, east and west elevation. And as discussed, this is identical across all 3 blocks. Here are some images of the site just for context. And in summary, the application complies with all relevant adopted core strategy policies regarding appearance and design. The changes would not result in any adverse neighbour amenity impacts, and as previously stated, the works have already been completed. Building Control have commented that the works are subject to a separate building control application but are acceptable in principle subject to that finalised building control certificate, which will be outside of the planning remit. And so to conclude, the recommendation is to approve the application for the reasons set out in paragraph 15.1 of the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Lottie. Any questions for Lottie? Didn't think so. Any points of debate? Do we like it? Right, so shall we move to the vote? Okay, so the recommendation is that the Chief Planning Officer be authorised to grant planning permission for the development, subject to those reasons set out in section 16 of the report. Do I have a proposer? Sue? Seconder, Linda? All those in favour? Keep them up. Yep, thank you. I believe that's unanimous? Okay, so recommendation, approval is given. Right. We're a little early for standing orders. I'll move it on one. Item 9 on the agenda is Arthur Toft House, George Crook's house and Lionel Oxley House, New Road, Grays, and Lottie, I believe it's yourself again.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, you will get a sense of déjà vu, so please bear with me. Again, a point of housekeeping. Essex Fire Service have said that they are no longer a statutory consultee and they have no comments at this time. Again, previously, Planning Committee granted consent for replacement of external wall coverings, windows, communal entrance canopies, and installation of new external lighting, roof guardrails, this time at Arthur Toft House, George Crook's house, and Lionel Oxley House. Again, this is a condition variation to satisfy building regulations and fire safety. The application site is a largely triangular area of land on the southern side of New Road, bordered by Exmouth Road to the west, Argent Street to the south, Bridge Road to the east, New Road and the railway line to the north. With the exception of the railway line directly to the north, it is entirely bordered by residential properties. Again, the elevations just show you quite how similar the blocks are. The proposed amendments are exactly as the previous application, so that is exposing existing vents at the east and west elevations, exposing existing automatic opening vents at the north elevation, amendment of the consented glass canopy on the north elevation to polycarbonate, amendment of the consented pitch roofs at ground story level of the west and east elevations to flat roofs, and the addition of a small area of dark grey render on the north, east and west elevations.
It's very similar to the last one.
For context, here are some site images. And as previously, the application complies with all relevant adopted core strategy policies regarding appearance and design. The changes would not result in any adverse neighbour amenity impacts, and much the same, the works for the already consented scheme have begun and the amended works have finished during the determination period, and Building Control have said they're satisfied subject to a separate Building Control application. To conclude, the recommendation is to approve the application for the reasons set out in 15.1 of the report. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lottie. Questions? Debate? Right, let's move to the recommendation. So the recommendation is, make sure I get the right one, that the Chief Planning Officer be authorised to grant planning permission for the development, excuse me, subject to those reasons set out in section 16 of the report. Do I have a proposer, please? Roy got his hand up marginally first. Sue, you second? All right, does somebody like to second it? Aaron, fantastic. All those in favour, please. Yeah, we've moved on. Okay, thank you. I think that was unanimous. So approval is given for that one. Right, it's a little earlier than usual, but I would like to move a motion without notice to suspend Council Procedure Rule 11.1, excuse me, to allow the meeting to continue beyond the 2.5-hour time limit. Any objections to that? Great, okay, so that's agreed. Right. That brings us to item 10, which is Glasshouse Retreat, Harrow Road, Bulven. And Nina, I believe it's yourself that's presenting the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So this application before you is at the site of Glasshouse Retreat, Harrow Road in Bulfen. Before I begin the presentation, I've just got some points of housekeeping to raise regarding some numbers that are mentioned in the report. So in paragraphs 13.3.51 and 13.3.54, the numbers of staffing that are employed by the Glasshouse Retreat are referenced. There was some discrepancy originally, but this has been clarified since publication of the report. And the number of staff employed is 54, not 4, as it is stated, I think, in one of those paragraphs. There's also a second point of clarification in section 13.4.2, where the applicant has since confirmed for clarity that the proposed development would consist of 4-bedroom dwellings, not 3 or 4 or 5, as it may have been stated. Okay, so the application before you is for a residential development on land northeast of the Glasshouse Retreat in Bulfen. The application site forms part of the grounds of the Glasshouse Retreat Wellness Centre, which was granted planning permission in March 2017. The blue line on the location plan denotes the extent of the land falling within the ownership of the applicant. The site is set within the Greenbelt in a rural setting. The site comprises of a largely undeveloped green field, with the exception of an outbuilding and some car parking, which doesn't have any apparent planning permission. As the development seeks to create permission for 4 detached dwellings in the Greenbelt, consideration needs to be made as to whether the site comprises of Greybelt. As there is some development without planning permission, it is not possible to consider the site as previously developed land, so cannot be considered Greybelt via this route. The detailed assessment as to whether the site constitutes as Greybelt with respect to its contribution to purposes A, B and D of paragraph 143 of the MPPF is set out within the report before you. However, officers conclude the site is Greybelt as it does not strongly contribute to those purposes. Fundamental to the in-principle assessment is compliance with all aspects of paragraph 155 of the MPPF. The proposal conflicts with paragraph 155C in that the development would not be in a sustainable location. The application site is set in a rural location where there is no street lighting, no pedestrian footpaths, there are no shops, GP surgeries or dentists in the immediate area. Public transport links rely on a flagged-down bus service providing a loop route. As a consequence, the development would be inappropriate development in the Greybelt, where very special circumstances would clearly need to demonstrate the development would outweigh the in-principle harm. For context, this slide shows the approved landscaping master plan for the Glasshouse Retreat development. The meadow grassed area shown details the intention for the application site to provide an area of open landscaping directly related to the Glasshouse Retreat use. And that is the application site before you. The top image here is taken at the junction of Harrow Road, which leads off to the right, and then Fen Lane leading off to the left. The bottom image is taken from along Fen Lane close to the application site. Images here are taken from Fen Lane looking northeast away from the site and then southwest in the direction of the site. And these images demonstrate the open, flat fenland character of the area. The images on this slide have been taken from inside the application site, with the left image orientating towards Fen Lane. The right image shows the agricultural building in the distance located at Stonehall Farm to the east of the site. The site is flat and undeveloped currently. This slide shows the indicative site plan for 4 detached 4-bedroom dwellings and a new access road leading directly from Harrow Road. The new access road would also cross the ditch running across the site as denoted by the blue line. As the applicant is aware, As the applicant is aware, the development would be inappropriate development in the grey belt and have provided an updated very special circumstances case in January, which includes considering the site as previously developed land and meeting local housing need as detailed in section 13 of the report, amongst other very special circumstances put forward. These very special circumstances have been considered in full, and whilst the lack of 5-year housing supply is considered to have significant weight in this case, on its own it is not considered to outweigh the level of harm caused. All factors provided as very special circumstances by the applicant, including the viability of the Glasshouse Retreat business, have been considered in detail within the report before you. However, in combination, none of these factors clearly outweigh the harm caused to the Greenbelt, which clearly justifies the development. As well as the in-principle harm due to the inappropriateness, there is harm arising resulting in the loss of openness resulting from an increase, for example, the access hard standing. And the application is recommended for refusal for the in-principle harm and other harm caused to the Greenbelt. In addition, it is considered the proposal would lead to harm to the open fenland landscaping and character. So to conclude, this application is considered to be inappropriate development in the Greybelt. No very special circumstances outweigh the harm caused to the openness of the Greenbelt and fenland character. The application is recommended for refusal for these reasons as per page 134 of the report. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Nina. What we'll do is we'll hold off any questions because we do have a statement of support from Joy Jarvis. Joy, if you'd like to join us. So, Joy, we'll put a 3-minute clock up there. You've got 3 minutes to speak through your statement. And, yeah, if you press the button on the right, that it comes on and then you're live. Okay, in your own time.
Good evening, Chair, members. My name is Joy Jarvis, and my husband and I own the Glasshouse Retreat. This is our very special circumstances. We're a husband and wife partnership who have quite literally put everything we own into building Glasshouse Retreat, even selling our own home. This planning application has one simple purpose: to ensure the survival of the retreat. When we bought this land in 2016, the retreat was surrounded by open countryside. That peaceful setting was the foundation of our business. The walks, the bridle paths, the sense of escape. But that landscape no longer exists. The solar farm has transformed the environment. What was once countryside is now a sea of glass and metal. The views have changed, the experience has changed, and when potential guests look us up online, they can see that too. Footfall has fallen significantly as a result. So we are being forced to adapt to survive. To do that, we need to shift part of our business towards a day visitor model. That requires investment. The business itself cannot fund that change. However, a small unused part of our land can. That is why we are proposing a small number of family homes on land at the back of the retreat, land that is currently not used, with all proceeds going directly into saving the business and the jobs of my 54 local staff. This is not speculation, it's not expansion for profit, it's survival. The site is officer-confirmed Greybelt land. It's not in a flood zone. This has been proven by a site-specific survey. Highways and utilities have raised no objection. The houses are barely visible from the road, and they are significantly lower than the hay barn that already exists, and it's near our boundary. This is a small proposal for homes, not sprawl, not urbanisation, not urban development. It will not harm openness, settlement separation, or the character of the area. On transport, our site already sits on a regular bus route within the flagged down zone, and the train station is only minutes away by car or bus. In addition, Dunnings Lane, new development nearby, which was passed here a few weeks ago, will further improve local transport connections. Also, 5 new houses at Judd's Farm were approved at a delegated, I believe, committee in 2024 with no transport objections raised. These new houses are at the bottom of my lane, at the furthest point away from transport links. My bank have agreed to loan us the money to build these houses, to sell them, and the proceeds will go into the Glasshouse Retreat. In closing, without this planning permission and the income it will generate, we genuinely fear our business will not survive. I respectfully ask for your support, not just for a planning application, but to help save us as a business. And it means everything to us and the local community and also my staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Okay, so members, would you like to ask Joy any questions of a factual nature? Tom and then Russell.
Thank you, Chair. Nina, would you be so kind, I'm not sure if you can you go onto Google Earth for us and home in on the site? Obviously, there's quite a lot of talk of the solar farm there, so it would be interesting to see what the resident was saying when you raised concerns over solar farm. Thank you.
Did you want that screen shared, or? It says I'm sharing, but I'm not sure if that's come up. Not showing up on it. No.
We know our tech can be idiosyncratic at times. Okay, we've got something, I think.
There you go, you should be able to see that.
Sorry, we haven't moved beyond that yet.
Thank you. And could you zoom out a touch? Just want to see the solar farm like in its entirety, that's all, compared to the site. Thank you.
It won't let me zoom out, so I'm just going to move across, and obviously the Glasshouse Retreat is on the map with the red marker.
Yeah.
Okay, and then go down. Okay, thank you. Can you go left?
Yeah, I think we can see it's. Does it quite surround the site?
And then go up. Okay, thank you. So I suppose the first question is, I think councillors, we look at these things practically, and what we're talking about here is 4 homes in a rural area and the impact and destruction on the green belt. But sort of looking from Google Earth there, I mean, some would argue that the destruction of the fens in that particular area was actually the solar farm. So as an officer's point of view, do you think sometimes the NPPF might sometimes not be in line with the practicalities of what we're looking at? What I mean is I find it hard to see how we can argue that's destruction of the greenbelt when we built a solar farm around their establishment in the fens. Would you argue that point? Thank you.
I'm not an expert on solar farm development, so I can't answer that specifically. What I will say is on this particular site, the MPPF has been applied, and that is how the conclusion has been reached in this instance.
Okay, thank you. And then just a couple of points on the report. So, and it might be something Ashley needs to answer, but look,
Sorry, it may be me. Were we? Because we've left Joy here, and we were asking her questions, and I kind of feel that we've left you hanging. So, Russell, was your question for Joy?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Joy, for your report. I'll remember what was there before. It was a derelict pub or cafe or hotel, whatever. And what you've done there is quite spectacular, really. Now you want to develop 4 executive homes, which I imagine won't be relying on bus transport services too much, because I should imagine they'll have some quite nice vehicles to go with them. So there won't be that much impact or necessity for the use of a bus service. Have you had any objections from anybody in your immediate location that's aware of these buildings?
No, no objections. I think the local, Waltham local town came in late with an objection, and the only other objection I think Nina has got is landscaping, which can be conditioned. Other than that, highways, everybody's happy with it. Thank you.
Joy, so do you mind if I ask what was the objection from Waltham Town?
I don't know, it came in late, so I think they've just objected to it. You can't see it from the road, so it can't be from the street scene because you can barely see it.
So if I may answer, the response from the Waltham Village Community Forum was received in time, because at the time the advertisement of the application was still running in terms of a press notice and in terms of a site notice. They hadn't expired. And the response has been included within the committee report that's before you under section 10.1.
I did think I'd seen something. Can you just, for the benefit of all of us, remind us what it actually says?
Their main points were that the development's out of character, there's flood risk concerns which have not been fully addressed, it harms the openness of the surrounding greenbelt and fenland, layout and design would urbanise the area, there's no justifiable reason given for the development, and strong sewerage smells around the site since the Glasshouse Retreat has opened, and no assessment of how the development of 4 homes would impact that sewerage system.
Thank you. Okay. Roy, I think you wanted to ask Joy a question. Thanks for that, Nina, by the way.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, when you had the Glass House Retreat built, was the solar farms there? Wasn't there, was they?
No.
So when was they built? The solar farm.
I came up here and I objected. I fully understand why you gave permission for it, but it hasn't impacted the business. I bought it in 2016 and it was the ideal location. The walks in the morning were idyllic. We can't walk anywhere now. We have to walk on the road. Otherwise you're walking in between panels. It's just dreadful. It's dreadful.
So what I'm trying to establish is that obviously you had this Glass House Retreat built, and then how long was it after that the solar farm was, say, put in place?
Solar farm, probably 4 years later, something like that. They've installed the solar farm, approximately.
It definitely had a detrimental impact on your business.
Definitely, definitely.
Any other questions for Joy? Okay. Regarding the somebody else, I think prior to the meeting mentioned this the sewage smell. I don't know if that's something you're aware of. Is that something that you've noticed?
It normally comes from the fields when they spray the fields, and it smells it doesn't come from us. It just comes generally from the fields. We clear our area. Beyond, when you go outside the glass house and you literally go down Harrow Road, there's all number of things in that ditch. huge items in the ditch, and which really should be removed. But I do write to the council and say, can you please speak to the farmers, because it does stop the flow, but they're still there.
Barry Johnson's your man, Councillor Barry Johnson. Get him on the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Joy? Okay. In that case, thank you very much for your presentation, and please return to your seat. So that means we can now resume asking questions of Nina. So yeah, I think Tom, you've made the point around the broader landscape. Did you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So it's a statement sort of question, and see where we end up. But I think we've had this grey belt, green belt policy be in now for nearly 12 months, and we've been asked to approve a lot in the green belt, and the planning committee have struggled with their conscience on some applications, have gone through, some have gone against. But I think for me, the concern with the grey belt, green belt now is how can you say yes to these big developers who are coming in with 50% affordable, and then the little guys come along and it's a no. The reason now that's important to this question because 2 months ago this committee rejected the paddocks in Horndon Hill, and the committee members were concerned about one bus service, and respectfully the officers on the night said one bus service is enough for 50 homes. Here the report's saying one flag down bus service is not good enough in a rural location. So I think there are holes beginning to appear now. I suppose the question would be, we were told 2 months ago that one bus service was enough. Why is this one not enough? Thank you.
I think Matt's going to answer that one.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, it's not necessarily about bus service, it's about access to bus stops. So the one in Horndon, there was bus stops in walking distance to that development. In terms of this application, there are no bus stops in close proximity to the development.
And then just help me out down with the flag down service then.
It's not currently a flag down service. It is a fully subsidised bus service by Essex County Council that is that routes through Balvan to turn around to go back up to Brentwood.
And then just one other question, Chair. Again, highlighting some issues with big developments in rural areas. We were told 2 months ago that 50 homes in Horndon on the Hill, which is rural, it wasn't, members argued, not close to any sort of shopping centres, no dentists, no GP surgeries. Again, members were told on the night that that's okay because it's in a village setting. Whereas tonight, we're being told this is very rural, it's not near no GP surgery. So have you got any answers to that? Because I think this is the case, Chair, now, of if big developers come to us with 50% affordable, it's almost like they're getting the green light, whereas the smaller guys are not. Is that a fair accusation?
I think there's a question in there. Is there one you feel you can answer, Nina?
Not me personally, because I don't have oversight of all of those applications you've mentioned. No.
I think it's worth coming back to that point, Tom, when we get to the debate stage, because I think it's a valid point. Russell.
Yeah, my question is, why have you refused this when we are asked to okay large developments like Horndon St Mary, where we're being told we've got to agree and we have to agree in principle, but you've got this development which is standalone, no objections. You could, if you want to define grey belt in the green belt, this would be a very good description of that. But why is it that you object? Can that be explained?
Before you come back, Nina, I think Ash just wanted to come in.
Yeah, so just to support my colleagues, so it's not so much we object, this is a recommendation. So the case officers come to a balanced view, and the reasons are set out in the report and articulated in the presentation. As with all cases, you must consider them on their own merits. Fundamentally, as with previous case earlier, if members don't agree with the officer's recommendation, that's absolutely fine. But ultimately, the case officer is simply presenting their assessment of the case to you. Now, with this case, it ultimately is a matter of judgment. So the points being made and articulated by committee members are completely valid. And, you know, committee may well come to a different view to what's been put forward by officers, and that's absolutely fine. I think the point being here is in the assessment that the case officer and the team have effectively identified that we don't consider this meets the requirements in the MPPF. But that is a matter of interpretation. And if committee don't agree with that interpretation, again, that's within committee's gifts. But it's not, don't see it so much as an objection. This is more of a recommendation from the case officer.
So with that in mind, I mean, I think in both cases it's the same question. You know, why is it not okay now when it was okay previously? I think perhaps what I'm going to suggest is that we bring that back up at the debate stage, because there's not really a specific we can ask there. You know, unless there's, well, what is it specifically about this plot that's different from something like Horndon? I think we might be here a while if we went down that route.
I agree. I mean, what is different? That's what I can't understand.
Maybe let's try that. Would you want to perhaps summarise for us what you feel is different about this site from some of the sites that we have been seeing recently, where it's felt that the need for homes outweighs the harm done?
So in this particular case, as Ashley's already pointed out, it is defined as grey belt. However, it falls down on the sustainability and the sustainable location of the site, in that this is a rural setting as opposed to maybe some semi-rural or urban locations that you've previously considered. There are no footpaths. The site itself is not considered to be in the centre of the village. It is disconnected from Baltham village itself. There is no safe walking route. So in terms of sustainability, it would be potentially unsafe for pedestrians to navigate their way to and from this site.
Thank you, but I don't understand that description of it either, because you've got many houses on these country lanes existing already without safe walking routes, no footpaths on the roads. So I can't see how you can use that. And these people, like I said earlier, will undoubtedly have access to some very nice cars and won't be doing a lot of walking. And other houses exist on those other country lanes without those footpaths.
Okay, I'm not sure there's a question in there, so statement noted. Should we move on? Sue.
Right, can you just clarify, is it going to be built on grey belt or green belt?
So the site is grey belt in that it doesn't meet the required tests of section A, B and D of paragraph 143 of the MPPF. But then there is also a sustainability assessment that we have to make, which is set out in paragraph 155C of the MPPF, which is where the site itself falls down because it is considered this isn't in a sustainable location.
Thank you.
So yes, it's definitely grey belt, but the question is around sustainability. Okay, thank you. Kathy.
Just a question. Sorry to bring the sewage question up, but it's not connected to the sewage system. Is that correct? So in the plans, would that a connection have to be made, presumably?
Anglian Water did comment on the application, and I think they, from memory, they did say that there are no connections to their sewers, and therefore they had no comments to make.
Where does that leave us? I mean, presumably they'd have to, if they built the houses, they would have to provide a sewage connection, or would they not? Would they have their own facilities for dealing?
That is something that would have to be covered off with a suitable planning condition.
Thank you. Yeah, that probably is a worthwhile planning condition. My mum and dad had a septic tank, but I wouldn't recommend that option. Right. Any other questions for Nina? Okay, brilliant. So then we'll move on to the debate. I think a couple of points have already been made around equivalence. We obviously have to view this on its own merits, but I think even looking at it on its own merits, I think there's probably plenty to talk about. So who'd like to kick us off? Sue.
Yeah, I think it's a marvellous plan, and I fully agree. I'll vote for it because I think there's a lot of houses in that area detached, and as Russell Cherry said, they're people who've got money and can afford the cars. And if you live in Thurrock, everybody has to have a car because the bus routes and that are so bad. You know, that's the way we live. So, yeah, I think it's a great plan.
Thanks, Sue. Jackie?
Thanks, Chair. Look, I'll be straight. I don't like anything in the green belt. I mean, I always say this to cover myself. I come here with an open mind, but it's the green belt. It's green. I don't care what the NPPF, and whatever it is, NPFF, you know what I mean, says. It's green. And when it's gone, it's gone. However, I find this rather galling that this is recommended for refusal when I see the assault we've made on our countryside and our environment, and that solar farm is a blot on the landscape, and how we can deny these people 4 houses beggars belief to me. It's one of the rare occasions that I will be voting for something on Greenbelt.
Thanks, Jackie. We've got Linda, then Roy. And then Kathy.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree with Councillor Maney. I don't know how we can say no at looking at that solar farm. It's taken up nearly all of the land around there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Roy?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I remember when this was first passed for the Glass House retreat, and it's been a wonderful facility in Thurrock. A lot of people have had good words to say about the place, and it must have been devastating to actually spend all that money, then see all these solar farms put up around you, and the country walks are all gone. And we're talking earlier about making Thurrock a better environment in which to live, and there we go, we plonk all these. It's not just a couple, is it? It isn't just an acre or 2 acres. Crikey, it must be about 50 acres worth around there. And these people there, then they see their businesses take a real hit. And I know we've got to look at this, and down the road there we are building 2,100 homes on what was, I say, farmland. So I can't see nothing wrong with this, to be quite honest. It's on Greenbelt, I know, but it's 4 homes. And these people need that to survive, to keep this business going. You can see that.
Thanks, Roy. Kathy?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to buck the trend here, I'm afraid. I agree with the officers on this one. It's not sustainable. You be car dependent, and okay, they'll have cars, but they may have teenage children who don't have cars. They may age and not be able to drive. Their car may break down, heaven forbid, you know. So, yeah, I don't like it. I think it's something we should be moving away from. So I'll agree with the officers.
Thanks, Kathy. Ash, I think you'd like to come in on a point?
Yeah, I've just noted in the report, that's 4.1, the size, the hectareage of the scheme is 0.6 hectares, so technically it would class as major development. And you've talked about other schemes, and as you know, on those other schemes, they'll have to provide 50% affordable housing. So the provision in this scheme is for market houses. So I need to raise that because obviously if members do overturn the officer recommendation, the description within the report is for market dwellings and not and zero provision of affordable housing. So just need members to be aware of that.
Sorry, Chair, just to clarify as well, I thought under 10 homes, that wasn't policy to provide affordable housing, just to clarify.
Yeah, so there's case law on this, and it's under 10 homes or sites of over 0.5 hectares. So this is technically, according to the report, 0.6 hectares. Now, obviously, we're just reading that within the report now, so that's just based on what is in the report. What I would say, obviously, committee can still, I can see where committee's thoughts, they can still overturn as per the report if they so wish, but I do need to make that point to committee.
Tom, yeah?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So initially the Glasshouse retreat, that was officer recommendation for refusal. That was about 10 years ago. I know the committee on the evening overturned that. And I do think it was the right decision based on how successful it's been, and we turned a derelict pub into a wellness retreat. I've not been there personally, but I understand it's a very well sought after establishment. I think, first of all, to defend the officers with the solar farm and the grey belt policy, I think, look, ultimately they are under government legislation with the MPPF, so I understand the recommendations. I do think we've got problems, though, going forward, Chair, with this grey belt, green belt, because ultimately it's allowing the big developers to come in with huge schemes and effectively get what they want, and then it's almost like the smaller developers are sort of cast out a little bit, anything under 10 homes, and ultimately the smaller ones can't afford the affordable homes because they're smaller schemes, but they are also the ones that generally get on with the job and get things built. So for me, I'll be approving this scheme. There is obviously some weighting attached, and outside that, I just think it's quite reasonable. I just think it's going to be exciting to see what happens in the future with all these schemes coming through and how officers come up with the recommendations for grey belt, green belt. Thank you.
Thanks. I think it's worth pointing out that grey belt is not the reason for put forward for refusal here. So grey belt has in fact worked for this development. But I take your point that smaller developments, what's not working for this development is the golden rule. But in this condition, in this situation, it's not proving particularly relevant. I think it's worth. Again, I'll do the devil's advocate bit. There are a couple of points being made here, a couple of them which I think can be dealt with by condition, one of them not. So the sewage connection, as Nina pointed out, I think we would probably need to, if we were minded to give permission, then we need a condition in there around appropriate sewage connection. I also noted flood risk. One of the objections from Bulven Village was, has the flood risk been addressed? And I guess it would be for us to ensure there's a condition. I think there is a condition, isn't there, that the appropriate flood risk assessment is done. I think, Matt, you're going to put me straight on this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will put my flood hat on because I also manage that team. The team have provided updated response to the case officer with regards to a raft of conditions if they were minded to approve it. So I suggest if you were minded to approve this application that we could append those conditions to the application.
Great, thank you, very forward thinking. Oh, yeah, I think in terms, from my point of view, the damage has already been done when the solar farms went up, and if we were talking about this not being grey belt, I think we could make a very good case for it being contained. As it is, as I say, the grey belt argument is fine on this one. The sustainability argument has been fairly made and well made. I think we are minded to say that for 4 houses, it isn't such an issue that it might be when we're looking at 50 in another case. Yeah, and as far as the flood risk and the sewage connection, I think those can be dealt with via conditions. So certainly, personally, I can't see a reason not to allow this to go ahead. Anybody else want to comment? I know I try to be the last voice, but there's no reason why I should be. No? Right, so in that case, I propose to go to the vote. Now, bearing in mind, the recommendation here is to refuse. I say this because I don't want anybody sticking their hand up for the wrong thing. So the recommendation is that the planning officer be authorised to refuse planning permission for the development subject to those reasons set out in section 16 of the report, which are the reasons for refusal. So, do I have a proposer to refuse permission? So we have a proposer. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so the recommendation to refuse falls. Alternative recommendation? Tom?
Yeah, just an alternative recommendation of approval. And obviously, if the officers want a list, I can come up with some weighting. Thank you.
Thanks. I would guess from what Matt was just saying, approve subject to the conditions that the officers are minded to include. I'm probably getting my words mangled on that because Ash wants to come in. So over to you, Ash.
Yeah, so I think we've covered in terms of reasons within debate. So what I'd suggest if committee allow officers or delegate authority to agree conditions, and what we'll do is that'll be in line with the discussion and any consultee responses. So Matt's touched on LLFA, but we'll go through any other consultee responses. So we'll work those conditions up with the applicant. Obviously, we'll need to agree them with the applicant, but as part of the recommendation, we get that delegated, please, committee.
Aaron. Thank you for that well-considered and valuable response.
No, that's my recommendation. What
Great, yes. So basically, recommendation is to approve permission and to delegate authority to officers to put together appropriate conditions. Do I have a proposer? Sue, marginally ahead. Do I have a seconder? Roy. All those in favour? Okay. All those against? And no abstentions. Okay, so the recommendation to approve permission is passed. Right, this brings us to item 11, Dell Road Care Home, and Nina, it's yourself again. Sorry, yes, I've kept you sitting here for ages. Why don't we take a quick comfort break and then none of you will grumble at me. Please be back in 10 minutes. It has to be a sustainable comfort break. Calling the Chief Planning Officer, calling the Chief Planning Officer. Right, so I think the point at which we broke was that I was just inviting Nina to talk us through the application for Dell Road. So Nina, if you'd care to talk us through that. Then we've got a statement of support, so we'll go through the usual routine that we'll save questions for Nina until after we've spoken to the applicant. Thank you. Nina, over to you, and ignore him.
Thank you, Chair. So before I begin this presentation, there are a couple of matters of housekeeping to bring to members' attention. Since the agenda was published, a consultee comment has been received from Adult Social Care. This comment has been shared with the applicant and they have since provided a response to the points raised with the main comment relating to some concerns over outdoor space and layout. The agent has confirmed the site would have a total accessible area of 1,629 square metres, which equates to 20 square metres of outdoor space per bed space. It is also noted that the applicant has brought to my attention that the revision numbers of the plans have not copied over onto within the report of condition 2. Therefore, it is requested that these references be included on the report. But I have to point out it doesn't actually make any difference to the plans and the matters that you've considered. It was just an admin error. Also, regarding... sorry, I've lost my point. The applicant has also provided a response to the Anglian Water comment since the publication of the report, and it references surface water drainage, which officers are content the included planning conditions covered, and that has been agreed by the LLFA officers. In addition, there are minor wording amendments sought to condition condition number 19, in that the wording explicitly refers to site levels and plans that have been approved. It's requested that condition 19 be amended in that the wording explicitly refers to plans that have been submitted indicating site levels. That's another amendment. And then there are two more amendments to condition wording. Condition number 25, which currently states a pre-commencement condition. The applicant is requesting that that can be changed to a prior to above ground development. That has been agreed by LLFA officers. They're content with that amendment. And condition 19, which relates to biodiversity net gain, the applicant has requested the wording in that be revised as this, in condition 27, as this is not a phased development, it will be built out in one go. So it is requested that delegated authority is given for these revisions to be made to these conditions. Okay. Okay, so the location plan is here with the site of an L shape. So the site is an L-shaped plot located at the junction of Dell Road with Allsit Road. Residential properties are located to the south and west of the site, with Oddfellows Medical Centre to the north and Grays Hall NHS building and school fields to the east and northeast of the site. There are no in-principle land use objections to the proposal. Planning history is relevant, and members may recall planning permission granted at the site in March 2025 for 37 dwellings. Development has not commenced, but the permission remains live. For members' awareness, this is the proposed site layout of that previously approved scheme, which was for 37 residential units with a mix of flats and houses. These are some images of the site, quite dark, I'm afraid, because the weather hasn't been great. But they are all taken from Dell Road, one from the opposite side of the road looking over onto the site, and the bottom right-hand image is taken from effectively the top of the hill with the site on the right-hand side looking down towards the town centre. This is the proposed site plan, where the proposal seeks to create an 82-bed care home falling under C2 use. Access to the site is also to be created via a new vehicular access. This would lead onto a car park providing 33 spaces. The car park would also have an ambulance bay and EV charging points. As you can see from the proposed site layout, the development would be well landscaped with the primary outdoor garden area located to the east, along with separate balcony and patio areas. As mentioned earlier, adult social care referred to the level of outdoor space, which the applicant has confirmed would provide 1,629 square metres of external amenity space, equating to 20 square metres per bed space. For context, this provision is greater than the level proposed at the recently approved Richmond Road scheme, which members recently considered. The proposal, including the outdoor provision, would provide an acceptable layout, including the level of provision of outdoor amenity space. In addition, the site is located in very close proximity to Grays Park. The development would not appear as cramped or overdeveloped. So here are the floor plans for the ground floor and the first floor. The coloured areas denote the use of each of those rooms. So the green denotes bedrooms for residents. The purplish colour denotes staff areas, and the orange is communal areas that residents can use. You will note on the ground floor that there's a greyed out area to the right-hand side. That is because the ground floor is effectively smaller than the floors above because of the topography of the site and the way it inclines up to the east. The ground floor stops at with a smaller footprint in comparison. And here are the floor plans, the second floor plan, which is a similar layout, and then you've got a roof plan there as well. Some street scene images have been provided. So this is how the proposal would look when viewing from Allsett Road looking north. So this is what you would see from the main road. The next image is what you would see from inside the site. So if you were standing in the car park area looking south, so this is effectively the back of the building. And then these two images look is what you would see from looking west and looking east. Here are some example elevations where the local vernacular has been considered, incorporating key design features visible within the surrounding area with the nearby Georgian properties. And these are some computer-generated images which the applicant has provided, which the top left shows how the building would fit in the site, and the other images show how the outdoor amenity space would effectively look. So to summarise, there's no in principle land use objection to the proposal. There is a demonstrated need for the provision offered. The proposed scale, design, appearance and layout of the scheme would be acceptable with respect to character, neighbour amenity and highway impacts. The proposal would provide circa 100 jobs once operational, complies with all relevant core strategy policies. There's also a RAMS mitigation payment which has also been agreed to be paid. Therefore, the application is recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Nina. So, before we go to any questions for Nina, we have a statement of support from Danny Simmons. It can be found on pages 8 to 9 of your booklet. Danny, would you like to come and join us? Somebody told me. Yeah. Before you start, so we'll have a clock up here. You'll have 3 minutes to make your statement. If you don't mind, I would ask you, gentlemen, to introduce yourselves so we understand who it is we're speaking to and what your roles are.
Okay. Committee, good evening. I'm Danny Simmons. I'm from RPS, planning consultant and agent acting on behalf of the applicant. To my right is Andy Place, who is the project architect, specialises in care home development. I will be speaking, but Andy is by my side and can answer questions should it assist the committee. The proposals are for an 82-bed care home. Importantly, committee, they're not speculative. The proposed operator is the Artisan Care Group, part of Avery Healthcare. The care home is designed to offer a range of care needs, including palliative, respite, and specialist dementia care. The care home will far exceed the specific design standards of the CQC. All rooms will have a full ensuite facilities, including shower facilities. Careful consideration has been given to the design of the care home and the provision of amenity space. And as confirmed by your planning officer, there will be a total of 1,629 square metres of external amenity space. By way of comparison, again, as referred by your planning officer, that exceeds the pro rata level of amenity space that was provided by the recently approved Richmond Road scheme. Plus, of course, relevant, the site is opposite the Grays Town Park. 33 car parking spaces are provided, including provision for staff, visitors and blue badge holders, plus provision is made for secure cycle parking. And the level of car parking provision committee has been agreed with your highways officers. Plus, of course, it's relevant the site is in a sustainable location on the edge of Grays Town Centre and within reasonable proximity to both a train station and to bus stops. As reported by your planning officer, the proposals comply with all relevant policies of your core strategy, plus they bring forward a number of significant benefits which can be summarised as follows. The proposals maximise the use of an underused site in the built-up area in a sustainable location. Notably, this is a development site by virtue of the extant planning permission for a residential scheme. The proposals meet a local need for care home accommodation to be operated by the 5th largest care home provider in the UK. It will bring forward a quality care home complementary to the character of the area. It will secure a positive effect in reducing pressure on primary care services. The proposals will assist with the health and well-being of care home residents. And importantly, committee, the proposals will bring forward approximately 100 permanent jobs, both full and part-time, available to local people. And in addition, there will be employment opportunities during the construction phase and indirect employment through increases in the supply chain. Thanks for your assistance and happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. So, members of the committee, do you have any questions for Danny? Tom.
Thank you. Just a quick one. So you're building this next to a school. Obviously, there's a 3G pitch there, floodlighting. Obviously, it's quite busy, used quite late into the evening. That's going to be okay for your residents when that's up and running. Obviously, I don't think it would be fair to be in a situation where pressure was put on the activities that take place late there at night. Thank you.
Yes, that was considered as part of the early design to sort of shield the building away from that side a little bit for the noise and for floodlights. So, yes.
Thanks, guys. Any other questions? No? Oh, Sue.
Regarding the outdoor space, is there sufficient amount of space there?
Sorry, sufficient?
Outdoor space.
Yes. Is the short answer. Well, in our experience, it's a lot about the quality of space as well, and providing a variety of spaces outdoors. A lot of care homes have spaces that aren't very protected, but it's the operator feels that it's very important to have an enclosed space that's got good supervision. Oh, blimey. And Yeah, we've got covered space as well. Under some of the terraces, a lot of care homes don't have that, so that you can use them in good weather, but other than that, not really. And it's sort of been thought about to try and get as much sort of variety there. You've got some that are on the roadside that give a bit more activity and link to the community, and then you've got some that are a bit more secluded. And you know, if you want a bit of a quiet space, you can go into that corner. So, but from a comparison of many schemes that we've done, this is above average. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Kathy?
Thank you. Just one question for the architect. I was reading one of the comments from residents, and they suggested that Swift bricks could be used. Have you given consideration to that?
Yeah, I thought it was a good suggestion. Yeah, there was some provision within it for putting up boxes in the trees, but if there's a known colony of swifts about, then yeah, I'm sure that's something that could be incorporated.
Lovely, thanks. Any other questions? Linda?
I know you've said that the parking spaces have been agreed that that's sufficient, but do you think it is sufficient? 33 spaces, 82 beds and 100 staff, was it?
Yes, I mean, it's a good question. I think the short answer is we do, and the reason we do is that the car parking figures have been based on studies. We've looked at the shift patterns and the hours of work of the comparable care home facilities of the operator. We've also undertaken surveys in the local area, and also we've looked at the standards based on car parking provision for other care homes. What we've come up with is provision which is 0.4 spaces per bed, which again is above average, and certainly this level of provision is 25% above what the operator would normally apply. So it is a very generous provision of car parking, plus of course the big advantage we have here is that we are in a sustainable location. We are next to the town centre, we're very close to the bus stops and the train station, so that staff in particular, they have the option of travelling by car, but also they had the option of travelling by public transport. Staff and visitors, of course.
Thanks. Tom?
Yeah, just a quick one. So how do you manage visitors? Because obviously there'll be a lot of relatives come to visit. I mean, how do you stop them all coming at once? Is there some sort of plan in place? Thank you.
People can come anytime, so there doesn't tend to be any sort of particular rush hour as such. But yeah, people can turn up on appointment. But in terms of from the parking perspective, you mean? Yeah, the operator's got 100 care homes, and they know from where those are located and the type of location, what from quite a big built-up past experience now, what the provision should be.
Thanks, Tom. Russell?
Yeah, this project sounds amazing. Just a warning, really, regards the parking. Mainly, will you have any control who parks there? Because, especially during the school pickup time, that road does get a lot of parents trying to park, and there is a lot of enforcement as well along that road. So it might be that some people might try to use your car parking spaces who aren't invited.
Thank you. Yes. Part of the reason to sort of bring the parking a little bit more into the site was for that. The operator generally doesn't like to have barriers and would certainly not want to go down that route, but because of the nature of it being slightly into the site, I think that gives surveillance, but also gives a bit of a threshold for, you know, unless you were meaning to go there, you don't quite feel like you should, sort of thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Right, well, thank you, gents. Do please return to your seats and move on to any questions that the committee might have for Nina. Does the committee have any questions for Nina? Tom?
Yeah, it's just really to pick up the highways officer's points on parking. Look, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous at that. I don't think it's a lot. How are you going to manage the visitors coming in and out? The site is surrounded by permit parking only. So you're confident that this is acceptable? I mean, I know it meets our standards, but you're happy with the reality of what the situation might be? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Short answer, yes. Long answer, we've asked the applicant to sense check the parking in accordance with their other operations. We're in a unique situation that this is not a speculative application. They've got an end operator. They've given us evidence from multiple sites. As the speaker has stated, they're over-providing the amount of parking to what they would normally apply as well to reflect our maximum parking standards that we would apply for a care home. As stated also as well, we are in a town centre location. There is a controlled parking zone in the area. There are pay and display car parks in easy walking distance as well, so we are confident that they shouldn't cause any highways impacts on the network, which ultimately is what we're concerned about. I will also draw members' attention to the committee report. Condition 14 is for a travel plan as well, so we're expecting the operator to have a fully fledged travel plan where they are putting incentives in for their staff and visitors to walk, cycle, take public transport to the development site rather than relying on their cars, essentially. And there's targets set in that, and there's monitoring as appropriate for that level of use.
Thank you. It's useful to know. Thanks. Any further questions? No? So, let's move on to the debate. Who would like to start? Tom?
Yeah, Chair, I think it's a nice scheme. I'm a little bit nervous over the parking, but ultimately, if it meets our standards, there's not really too much we can do about that. Whilst I don't perceive that I live close to the site, I do live probably about a 3-4 minute walk away, and just on the outskirts of the parking permit zone. So I will gladly report back if there are any issues. I won't be able to do anything about it, but care homes obviously are incredibly important. So yeah, let's see how it works out. Hopefully, it's a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sue?
Yeah, I welcome this scheme. I think that bit of land's been derelict for quite a while, and to build a care home in Thurrock with our ageing population, I think it's a great thing. Yeah.
Thank you. So, if there's no further debate, then shall I put forward the recommendation? Right. So, the recommendation is that the Chief Planning Officer be authorised to approve the application for the development, subject to those conditions set out in section 16 of the report. Do I have a proposer? Russell. And seconder? Tom? So, all those in favour? It's either up or it's not up. Lovely. Great, so the application is approved. And that brings us on to our last item, item 12, which is the Port of Tilbury. And Alan Ward, it's your time in the sunlight.
Thank you, Chair.
In fact, moonscape, whichever you prefer.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for the... yes, I believe I have control now. So, yes, thank you, Chair. This is an application for an extension of the Port of Tilbury. The application site here lies adjacent to Tilbury 2, which was permitted under a separate regime. And here is the red line plan, which shows the extension eastwards of the site, which includes part of the former Tilbury B power station and then part of the former Ashfields, which pertain to that power station. Before moving on, I just need to make members aware, it's on the website, that Bug Life did see the application was going to committee, and they have maintained their objection. Their objection still has come forward on the loss of invertebrate habitat, as they stated before, harm to local wildlife site, and their belief that the compensation proposed is inadequate. Here we have an aerial view of the site. So over to the west, you can see the Tilbury Fort, which is a scheduled monument. You can see how the port has got around that then to have Tilbury 2, which is here, and then you have Tilbury 3. Like I say, there's the remains of the hard stand where the power station was, and then as you progress eastwards to the former ash fields. There's development zones plan here, so the application is in hybrid form. It is just under 60 hectares of land between Tilbury 2 and over to the east you will have the new Lower Thames Crossing corridor. The site has been named by the applicants as Tilbury 3, and it's a mix of future industrial storage, port-related uses, including construction materials and aggregates terminal, known as a CMAT, new rail terminal, internal road network, land raising, drainage and utilities to support the port operation. So with regards to it being hybrid, the full component comprises the infrastructure needed to facilitate the new uses on the site. So that will be the access, the rail terminal, the land regrading to give a flat surface and development platforms, utilities and drainage, and the ecological mitigation required for the early stages. So that includes species translocation and habitat works. The report, which has been provided to members, obviously is very detailed. There is a lot of information in there with regards to these matters, which we have received many comments on, and we have also we've received requests from Natural England who have asked for more information, so haven't expressly said no objection, but the applicants have been making the point that they've been working with Natural England and other bodies for a number of years, and as the case they've put forward is they've been good owners in terms of creating new habitats on the former ash fields of the power station, and actually that's what now needs to be translocated, moved elsewhere so the port can expand. The outline component, as you'd naturally expect, it covers the future uses of the site, which are shown in development parameter plans, which will be controlled by a planning condition with regards to building heights across the site. There will be a 3-metre land raising of the site as it exists at the moment, and then there will be buildings that range in size, potentially up to 39 metres in height. So the site is greenbelt, or a lot of it is in the greenbelt. Part of it is previously developed land, part of it was in the urban area. It is of ecological value. You also do have Tilbury Fort, which is a scheduled monument over to the west. You have local wildlife sites abutting and slightly or partially within the site. And as said, you have the Ashfield A1, which is an invertebrate habitat. We consider that the site does constitute grey belt, doesn't strongly contribute to the purposes A, B and D, which has been rehearsed at committee before. It is it's not checking the unrestricted sprawl of the urban area. It doesn't result in towns merging, and it doesn't affect an historic town. It is also physically contained by the railway to the north. It's physically contained by the port to the west, the Thames to the south, and the Lower Thames Crossing corridor, which obviously is permitted and committed to the east. So therefore, it can be not inappropriate development in the grey belt, and it meets the national planning policy tests of being in a sustainable location. You have that intermodal freight options. You have the railway, you have the road, obviously you have the water. You have the unmet need. We are an island economy. National planning policy statement and the national port statement support the expansion of port facilities where it's market led. Obviously, it is where the majority of our freight comes into this country, comes into the ports. It has a regional, if not a national, importance in that regard. And in the alternative, if it's considered not to be grey belt, we do believe there to be very special circumstances in this instance. As said, you have the national port need, the expansion required to maintain the UK supply chain resilience, and Tilbury 3 is the only operationally viable expansion location for the Port of Tilbury, given the deep water access, the existing berths, and that multimodal infrastructure that you have there, which can be expanded upon. There are significant employment and economic benefits. There are very high numbers that have been put forward by the applicants in their submission. You have operational jobs, you've got significant amount of construction jobs. They've quoted 398 million local gross value added uplift. And it also has the Thames Freeport status. So that's not a planning tool, but it's clearly an endorsement by central government that they're looking to accelerate growth, economic growth in areas like this. And there are they do have the impetus to do that because of the various schemes that the government's put forward for it. We do have the ecology impacts. We have the loss of parts of local wildlife sites. They are not statutory designations, no. And we do have a high value, what's known as open mosaic habitat. That ash field does support nationally important invertebrates due to the pulverized fuel ash substrate. And we have taken that into account in the officer report. The applicants have proposed mitigation solutions. There is going to be a full ecological mitigation and compensation strategy, including the essentially transplant of the ash field to a compensation site at Mucking. And there is delivery of at least 10% biodiversity net gains, the protected species translocation, and the long-term management, which is secured via a LEMP and an EMCP. So a LEMP is a landscape and ecological management plan. An EMCP is ecological mitigation and compensation plan. Like I say, they'll be secured via conditions or Section 106. We do have that significant policy support. There is strong alignment with the National Ports Policy, the NPPF 24, and the Thurrock Core Strategy for Strategic Employment and Freight Growth. So on that basis, Chair, and subject to the recommendation, which because we do not have an express no objection from Natural England, in the recommendation we would consult Natural England if the resolution is to grant tonight to ensure that we follow due process and we give them the opportunity to respond. And if they do respond, then we have to give the applicant that opportunity. But all those mechanisms are there in the recommendation to make sure we deal with this application appropriately, bring it forward appropriately, and members can be confident in their voting tonight with the recommendations subject to that and the conditions and the Section 106 heads of terms which are attached in Appendix 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Alan. So obviously we'll have the chance to ask Alan some questions, but first we have a couple of statements. We have a speaker statement of objection provided by Dr. Dagley. It can be found on pages 9 and 10 of your booklet. Dr. Dagley, if you'd like to... Is he here? So we don't appear to have Dr. Dagley with us. You have the statement. Have you had the opportunity to read the statement? Okay, so in the absence of Dr. Dagley, I'll move on to the next statement, which is a speaker statement of support, which has been provided by Hardeep Rayat and can be found on pages 10 to 12 of the speaker statement booklet. Hardeep, if you'd like to come down. And once again, what I'd ask you to do is to introduce the gentleman with you so that we know who is who, which is, I guess, why anybody introduces anyone. So yeah, like I say, if you once I've shut up anyway, if you'll introduce your colleagues, and then you'll have 3 minutes for your statement, so in your own time.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, good evening. Good evening, Chair and members. I'm Hardeep Wright from Vincent & Gilbing, the planning consultant, speaking on behalf of the applicant, the Port of Tilbury London Limited. To my immediate right is Phil Hamshaw from iTransport, and he's a transport consultant. And to the far right, Dominic Woodfield from Bioscan, who is the ecological consultant. So the Port of Tilbury has been operating for nearly 140 years and it directly employs over 700 staff, indirectly supports up to 11,000 jobs. The port has always invested locally, working with various community groups and providing local jobs and apprenticeships. A summary of that community work has also been provided for committee. Tilbury 3 represents a strategically important, policy-supported expansion of one of the UK's most significant ports. It sits entirely within the Thames Freeport. The Freeport designation is expected to attract substantial private investment, generate significant jobs, delivering £2.5 billion GVA per year across the region by 2045. For Tilbury 3, the economic benefits are substantial. During construction, the scheme will support over 2,000 jobs and contribute around £140 million to the national economy annually. Once operational, Tilbury 3 will sustain approximately 11,000 jobs nationally, including over 6,000 jobs locally, and deliver over £600 million in national GVA each year, with nearly £400 million retained locally. This level of employment and economic uplift is rare for a single application and demonstrates why the Port of Tilbury is recognised as a nationally significant freight and logistics hub. The Tilbury 3 site is the viable location for the port's expansion, directly adjacent to Tilbury 2, which ensures operational efficiency and connectivity to existing rail and infrastructure. 2/3 of the site lies within the grey belt, and the remaining third is previously developed land. Accordingly, the proposal does not constitute inappropriate development. The environmental and technical assessments underpinning this application are robust, and there are no objections raised by the key statutory stakeholders, as reported by officers and the Council's committee report. On ecology, extensive engagement has ensured that all assessment methodologies are appropriate. The project will deliver a minimum 10% B&G, supported by a proven compensation strategy at Mucking, already recognised as a nationally important invertebrate site due to early enhancements delivered by the port. And indeed, it has been recognised and regarded as an exemplary model. In the same way, the proposed ecological mitigation and compensation strategy will ensure all biodiversity commitments are delivered and secured prior to works on sensitive land parcels. All transport modelling has been agreed with National Highways and Thurrock Highways with no severe impacts identified. A range of planning obligations have been agreed with the Council and a full head of terms is appended to the committee report, which further demonstrates the Port's commitments to local employment and skills. Chair and members, as the Council's committee report demonstrates, the application before you is policy compliant, economically transformative and environmentally responsible. It will secure nationally significant port-related growth, strengthen Thurrock's position at the heart of the Thames Freeport and deliver thousands of skilled jobs and major investment at a time when this borough needs it most. For these reasons, I respectfully urge members to grant permission for Tilbury 3. Thank you.
Thanks, Hardeep. So, any questions for Hardeep and his colleagues? Tom.
Thank you. With the Lower Thames Crossing, has your company had any engagement with them about the impacts that will have? And there was initially a relief road on one of the original provisions of the Lower Thames Crossing, no longer there. I just wondered what your opinions were on that, because ultimately, as Tilbury expands, Tilbury 2, Tilbury 3, there's obviously going to be added pressure on what you would call the Asda's or Amazon roundabout. I just wondered how you plan to mitigate that, or if there was any further engagement with Lower Thames Crossing. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, we have had continual engagement with the Lower Thames Crossing for many years throughout their process and obviously alongside as part of Tilbury 3. And we've had agreement with them on behalf of National Highways. So, but there are talks still, there is an ongoing conversation with them in terms of whether there is a connection ultimately. There is a Hall Road connection, as you know, you may know, in terms of for construction purposes. So when they're constructing Lower Thames Crossing, they will be coming through Tilbury 2 and Tilbury 3 and connecting to the work site there. So that connection is facilitated and there's ongoing conversations for future connections.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I wasn't aware of that there was going to be a temporary link road, but I just wondered, obviously, the main beneficiaries of that would be, obviously, yourselves. I just wondered whether that was something you was trying to promote to get a actual link road in, because obviously then it would negate the need for HGVs to go down the A13 as much. They could just come in and out of Tilbury and then straight onto Lower Thames Crossing into Kent or possibly up north.
Yeah, it's not required for this application, and obviously there's ongoing discussions in the background, but it's not required, and the whole road is part of Lower Thames Crossing scheme in terms of construction activity.
Before we go on, I think Matt wanted to come in at that point.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As already mentioned, it's not before you as part of this application. I'll give you a bit of background on the Tilbury Link Roads, as it was called at the time for the Lower Thames Crossing. It was initially proposed, but through the modelling outputs that was identified by the Lower Thames Crossing team, it was then discounted from the scheme because the impact would be considered severe on the local highway network. Okay, so that's why it was removed from the Lower Thames Crossing development consent order in its initial phase. Obviously, there is a passive provision, protected provision within the DCO that enables future discussions for an access link at Tilbury as well as at South Ockenden, but that would need to be brought forward by relevant parties, not National Highways.
Thanks, Matt. I think Russell and then Jackie.
I don't know yet what the 106 money has been earmarked for. Perhaps that'll be explained to us later. But one of the things that's been raised is the increase of traffic on St Andrews Road, which links with Asda roundabout, which I think is the main route in at the moment. That road is suffering. That it's quite unclean, and the curbs are suffering, I've been told. Is there anything within your plans to help with that road, which is at the moment the main access in?
In terms of the St Andrews Road, no, there's no plans to improve that as part of the scheme, no.
Thank you. Jackie.
Thanks, Chair. On the statement of objection, there is a question, but I'll try and get to it quicker. Dr. Dagley has said that there's over 1,190 species have been recorded at that site. 185 are rare, scarce or threatened, nearly 3 times the national average. 35 are among the rarest invertebrates in the country. Now, you have not dismissed these ecological concerns, I understand. You recognise that there's an issue. How do you propose to mitigate that sort of loss to wildlife and habitat? Because that bothers me more than anything else. Thank you.
I'll lean across. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yes, as you say, we fully recognise the national importance of some of the resources here. This part of the Thames Estuary is a real hotspot for invertebrate diversity, and we heard about it earlier on this evening as well. I think we have the confidence that we can mitigate and compensate because we've done it before, and we've delivered in response to the London Distribution Park, which is next to the Asda roundabout, the big Amazon warehouse site there. We did the mitigation and compensation scheme for that, which involved habitat creation at Mucking, and that is now also a site of national importance. So that was a success, and I think we've got that proven track record to show that with the right substrates and the right design, we can deliver nationally important invertebrate habitats elsewhere and still allow this economically very important development to be delivered.
Actually, just picking up on that question of Jackie's, Dr. Dagley's specific concern, I think, reading through his statement, was that the mucking site would not necessarily have the capacity, given that it's already been used, to migrate other wildlife. And his concern was whether it was going to have the capacity to continue, in effect, to mitigate losses from elsewhere. So I think it'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Yes, I've seen those concerns expressed, and I think well, the first thing to say is that we are not replicating or overwriting or kind of double counting anything that's been done at Mucking previously. So what's being proposed as part of the Tilbury 3 project is in addition to, it's 28 hectares of additional high invertebrate importance habitat that's been created there in a situation where the alternative, the approved restoration of that site, is to a fairly mundane type of grassland and tree planting type of proposal. So we are significantly enhancing that, and I think that's recognised by all parties. As to whether, I mean, there's been a charge leveled that we're just dumping everything at Mucking. Well, to some extent, what's been delivered at Mucking already is quite small, and just abiding by the Lawton principles in relation to the sort of the way to approach nature conservation at a strategic level, we're making what's delivered at Mucking bigger and better. And then the question about whether it's more joined up, well, we are retaining and recreating some habitats at Tilbury 3. They will link into whatever Lower Thames Crossing are doing in terms of their own habitat creation proposals. So it's not like we're taking everything away from the area. We are just, there will be impacts. That's absolutely right, that there will be impacts that are significant. But equally, the compensation will also be very significant. And what's delivered at Mucking, I think, will in turn prove to be of very high national importance in due course.
So where Dr. Dagley is saying that he doubts he will deliver the 10% biodiversity gain, you're saying that the extra that you're putting into Mucking will deliver that gain, but including compensating obviously for the A1, the Ashford A1 site going.
Yes, well, the Mucking isn't the only delivery site for ecological compensation. So Mucking is the delivery site for the invertebrate compensation. So we're particularly the brownfield and the open mosaic habitats that they've been pretty well designed out and pretty much fixed. But there is then an additional quantum of 20 hectares or so of additional habitat that will be created somewhere else that will be on more easy to create habitats in order to achieve the 10% biodiversity net gain. So Mucking isn't the sum total of the compensation scheme.
And when you say somewhere else, have you the somewhere in mind, or is it just that we will do it, we just don't know where yet?
Yes, I mean, the biodiversity gain condition is a standard condition that allows you to kind of explore the various options to doing this. We may have a problem delivering, I'll be brutally honest, we may have a problem delivering it within Thurrock, but it will deliver it within the same national character area, which means is entirely consistent with the BNG rules. So it will be somewhere in an Thames estuary side location. Previously with Tilbury 2, that was over near Southend. Hopefully we can get it a bit closer this time, but it will depend on a land search and various things that we'll have to go through, but it will be delivered.
Thank you. Sorry, Jackie, back to you.
Thanks, Chair. Just quickly, you state that you've been in touch with stakeholders and they've been consulted with. But Essex Wildlife Trust say you haven't consulted with them, you haven't spoken to them about their concerns. Why would you not speak to one of the biggest wildlife charities that there is, organisation?
I would say that we have spoken to the Essex Wildlife Trust. I mean, clearly, as part of a standard EIA process, you kind of consult with the local nature conservation organisations, you obtain records from them. The main party that we've consulted in has been Natural England, because Natural England have had specific concerns around the nationally important invertebrate interests. And to be honest, the Natural England position kind of encapsulates the position of both Essex Wildlife Trust and BugLife and Essex Field Club. So whilst we haven't, I mean, I'd say that there's been discourse with the Essex Wildlife Trust, and there will continue to be discourse with the Essex Wildlife Trust, much as the same as with Tilbury 2, because what we created at Mucking in relation to compensating for Tilbury 2 will ultimately go to the Essex Wildlife Trust to be managed in the future, and that's now, that arrangement's now been settled. So I don't think it's quite right to say that the Essex Wildlife Trust have been cut out of the process. They may not have been as closely consulted or involved as Natural England, but clearly Natural England were the main statutory consultee here, and we've kind of weighted it accordingly.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Well, thanks, gentlemen. You can regain your seats. Thank you very much. So that brings us back to, and I've forgotten already, it's Alan. Any questions for Alan based on what you've heard? Russell.
Alan, if you can just explain about the 106 monies, I've not yet found it in there. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to the to find the relevant section for you. 2 seconds. So there is a financial contribution of £359,404 for support for the council's employment and skills programme. And that's the only financial contribution within the proposed within the heads of terms of the Section 106.
And can you possibly help me out with some of the concerns from a resident about the St Andrews Road approach, if that's something we can look at in relation to the increased movement of vehicles?
Yes, certainly. So it sounds like it's an existing situation, the problem you're referring to, and that is something that I believe there are conditions in place with regards to the existing facilities and being considerate with regards to how those roads are being used. Obviously, there's only so far you can go, and there's different ways a council can enforce if they feel there is an unreasonable amount of material being deposited on the road from the port, and that's a separate enforcement regime necessary potentially to planning. We do have conditions regarding the vehicle movements and everything else, which that's proposed as part of the recommendation tonight, and it is very detailed and encompassing, particularly with regards to the construction phase. So the construction phase does have that control to make sure you're not going to get that material deposited on the road.
Yeah, thank you. I think that might help.
Roy.
Thank you, Chair. Alan, what's the height of the tallest building on site? I'm trying to think in relation to how the power station was, the height of the building, and also two questions there in one. The entrance is the same as Tilbury 2, I take it. It's just a link thing, isn't it? Yeah?
Yes, taking it in reverse order, yes. It's using the same access, but obviously taking it through to that part of the site. And the buildings could reach up to 39 metres. That's the limit that we've got with the parameters plan. And that would be on a new level, which is raised also by several metres. So there's no denying there is the potential for large buildings along there, which you would expect with a port facility. And that's all laid down very clearly in the report.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. But how far away would they be from the Tilbury Fort, say, for example? Because we're getting close to the historic fort here, and I wonder where that building would be in relation to the site plan.
Yes, absolutely. And it is something that Historic England raised. It is a scheduled monument. So obviously I visited the site and taken a look. And the reality is the fort is already now enclosed. And because Tilbury 3 will lie to the east of Tilbury 2, Tilbury 2 sits between the fort and Tilbury 3. So there are lots of conditions recommended with regards to light cowling, and also making sure that when the reserved matters come forward, they're considered in regards to mitigating as far as possible the impact on the fort. But what Historic England have come back really is it's the appreciation of the fort. So when you're looking at it from the water, which for a lot of us, I suppose it's not a real proposition, but it's further industrialisation around it, but it's already happened. We've already seen it. Tilbury 2's obviously there. It's gone through. And having been on the site myself, you don't really perceive the two in relation to each other.
Just one more coming in. Yeah, the thing being Tilbury 2 is mainly flat. Most of that is Tilbury 2 flat. There's not any particular high buildings there, and you've got the gravel and things like that. But so that's what I was concerned about with Tilbury Fort being next door to it. Keep it away a little bit, the building.
Yes, no, fully understood. And there is that separation regardless. Like you say, it's flat, but it creates a buffer, be it flat, be it developed, for the new Tilbury 3 site.
Okay, we've got Kathy, then we've got Russell. Kathy.
Just, it was when I was reading, and I can't find it now because there is a lot of information. I read something about there was a highways contribution. I don't know if it's been requested or agreed of £200,000 to the local cycle network to ensure that people could cycle there. Is that something that's definitely agreed?
No, it wasn't agreed. It is a facility that was already committed prior to Tilbury 3 coming along. So we, as planners, have to look at whether or not that contribution request is reasonable. And quite simply, it's not needed to make this development acceptable in planning terms. So therefore, we cannot ask for the money that was requested.
As we all love a cereal, is there to be a Tilbury 4?
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water.
I've not been made aware of that. Obviously, there is the commercial aspect. There's a big commitment with regards to bringing Tilbury 3 forward with regards to the infrastructure needed, and there's a case of build it. Will they come? Will they fill all the potential uses on the site? And I presume they'd want to be full before they get hungry again for another Tilbury 4.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for Alan? Right. Oh, yes, Kathy.
It's just a last thing. As obviously something we're looking for funding for is that Tilbury to Gravesend ferry, and this is in the environment. So I don't know if there was any possibility of 106 money going towards that at all.
It's not been discussed as part of this application, and it's not something that we have considered to be sort of even close to necessary with regards to making this scheme acceptable, I'm afraid. So it's not been part of the discussion.
Take that as a no then. Right, so if that's all questions, shall we move into the debate? Who would like to start? Who has thoughts on this development? Russell.
I like the idea that it's going to bring more employment to the area. It's it already has that vibe about it, being industrial on the Thames. So if it's going to happen anywhere, it's pretty best to happen where it is, especially if it creates some local employment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Roy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Tilbury Port has been expanding now for some time, and it's good to see that something's thriving in the area, and it supplies a lot of jobs to local community. I think that realistically they've proved with Tilbury 2 that it worked well. You know, people were a bit worried there's Tilbury docks, and then Tilbury 2's down the road. It seemed to be out the way from the docks. It's not actually in the docks, but it worked. It works quite well. And this is going to go next door to it. I mean, my concern was of the height of the buildings being as that is kind of like encroaching on the forts. But I think that, you know, with the wildlife, they spent quite a long time. I know this for a fact because I worked down there with the, you know, wildlife transferring them. Long time. There's quite a few people on there to make sure that before they started construction, wildlife the site was sort of pretty cleaned and clear. So yeah, I'm in favour of this. Thank you.
Thanks. It's not for tonight, but I am desperate to know how you move an invertebrate. Conversation for another time.
I was a while there, and this chap was going to show me this. He said, we get loads of adders. I said, oh, great. I was there for a week, I only see a little one like that.
Still wouldn't argue with it. Russell.
My only concern for the invertebrates is that last time I visited the Essex Wildlife Site, there was a very healthy population of hawks. So I hope they're quick. They're very fast.
Yeah. I mean, on a serious note, I think that seems to be the one area where we had sort of question marks, concerns. Obviously, the gentlemen have spoken to us about their plans. Clearly, what's currently there at Mucking, they want to significantly expand. And it sounds like they are actually taking on board. Whether or not Essex Wildlife feel they're being talked to, it sounds like their concerns are being taken on board, and I would hope that that would carry on. Whether it's in conversation with them or in conversation with Natural England, they're probably concerned about the same things. So it sounds to me like that mitigation is being addressed, is being taken in hand. And that seemed to be the one area where there was potential for concerns. Okay, so any further comments, or shall we move to the vote? Okay, so the recommendation is that, and stop me if you've heard this before, that the Chief Planning Officer be authorised to grant planning permission for the development, subject to those reasons set out in section 16 of the report. Do I have a proposer for that? Roy. And a seconder, please? Russell. So all those in favour? Okay. Against? Abstention? Well, you've got to have voted one way. Will you?
No, he changed his mind.
Oh.
Aaron changed his mind.
Oh, you were a late blossomer, right? Okay. So the application has been approved. And with that, it is 5 to 10, and I will call this meeting to a close. Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Chair.